News Live begins right now. Here's Mitchell.
Hi, everybody. We are coming on the air at this hour a little earlier than we had originally anticipated because right now President Donald Trump is attending an event in Dover, Delaware for the dignified transfer of those two bodies, those two soldiers, United States soldiers that were killed overseas in Syria late last week. Let's take a listen here and listen in. You see there President Donald Trump, eyes closed there for just a moment, taking a moment of silence. Of course, this moment, so incredibly sad here as we've seen those Syria soldiers killed in that ambush that occurred last week. It occurred in Palmyra, Syria. This was back on the 13th, so last week. Two U.S. Army National Guard soldiers and a U.S. civilian interpreter were killed and three other soldiers were wounded. The attack was carried out by a lone gunman who the president and others have suspected to have ISIS tags. There, as you see the second body carried there, this is an event that happens for each fallen soldier. Please stand by with me here. I know we're switching back to my face, but we are having some audio issues, so let's see here if we cannot get that fixed. Things like this, technical issues can occur here in a moment like this, so we're trying to get that feed pulled back up for you of the president, of Secretary of War or Defense, however you say it, Pete Hegseth. There we go. Let's just take a moment here and recognize these fallen soldiers. Alrighty, to bring you up to speed here, we started Brookland News Live a little early here because President Donald Trump was participating in this ceremony here for the dignified transfer of those two soldiers killed overseas. Their names have since been released. Names being Sergeant Edgar Brian Torres Tover, he's 25, he was of Iowa, and Sergeant William Nathaniel Howard, 29, also of Iowa, both members of the Iowa National Guard, sent to Syria and attacked in an ambush by a sole gunman said to have connections to ISIS. As we continue to watch this transfer of power here, something that happens for every soldier that is killed in the line of duty. We are going to continue watching this feed. Of course, such a somber moment to see this all happening in real time. Both of those soldiers killed were a part of Iowa's National Guard 1st Quadrant, the 113th Cavalry Regiment, deployed as part of the counter-ISIS mission, Operation Inherent Resolve. The civilian interpreter was identified as Ayad Masur Sakat of Michigan. You see there all three of their bodies now being transferred. In this ceremony, Trump, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, their Secretary of War, you've seen there. Going back just a little bit in time here, in March of 2025, at least 7 people were killed in clashes on the Syria-Lebanon border. Around 6 Syrian soldiers were killed in an Israel drone strike near Damascus in September 2025. Previously, 20 Syrian soldiers were also killed by ISIS in an attack near the town of Mayadeen in 2023. This ISIS, a gang that the president has been he hasn't liked them, to say the least. He has worked so hard and diligently, passionately going against them, trying to remove them from the country, fighting them overseas, as you see in this counter ISIS movement, where these 2 U.S. soldiers and an interpreter were killed, a part of the Iowa National Guard. This moment beyond devastating to see. They were very young people. Sergeant Howard, William Nathaniel Howard, he was only 29. Sergeant Edgar Brian Torres Tover was only 25. They were both of Iowa. Sergeant Howard of Marshalltown, Iowa. Sergeant Torres Tover of Des Moines, Iowa. This moment, of course, a moment you gotta stop, take a moment, and see, that is for sure. We're gonna take another pause here and just watch as this ceremony goes on. You are watching live pictures from Dover, Delaware. As you see there, Trump, Secretary of War or Defense Pete Hegseth, and many of other high-ranking military members honoring the 2 fallen soldiers who died early last week, I should say, Sergeant William Nathaniel Howard and Sergeant Edgar Brian Torres Stover, killed in an ambush in Palmyra, Syria. 2 Syrian soldiers were also reported injured. Among those, there was also an interpreter there. You've been watching this moment. Nothing short of you kind of get those butterflies in your stomach, the nervousness, and just the remembrance, I should say, of these fallen soldiers. You're now watching as they move here away. That van is where those soldiers are. Let's continue kind of just taking a moment and a breath here as we watch. Alrighty, you have been watching that feed there. What we're gonna do here at Brooklyn News, sneak in just a few second break here. When we come back, Brooklyn News Live will officially begin as we've just approached 2 p.m. here in Arkansas.
Brookland News Live again right now. Here's Mitchell.
Hi everybody, welcome into Brooklyn News Live. It is 2:01 p.m. here in Brookland, Arkansas, right here live at Brooklyn News headquarters. On the East Coast, it's 3:01, and on the West Coast, it is 12:01. Good to be with you. I'm Jackson Mitchell. As we start a new hour here of Brooklyn News Live, a fresh beginning hour. We were on the air just a few moments ago as we were watching cameras in Dover, Delaware, as President Donald Trump participated in the dignified transfer of those 2 soldiers killed in Syria. We were watching that for just a moment. Let's take you to some of the feeds we're following right now. Starting with Capitol Hill. We got a lot of feeds in Capitol Hill today, just moments ago. Senate Democrats holding a press conference. We will listen into that in just a moment. Plus, House lawmakers debating legislation on the House floor. We'll keep our eyes peeled to that and what comes from there. And House Committee on the impacts of a temporary protection order. We'll keep our eyes peeled to that. First here, I want to start with the press conference, though, from Senate Dems just moments ago on Capitol Hill.
All right, well, welcome everybody. I'm proud to be joined by my colleagues here today. Now, today, Senate Democrats were launching our 2026 initiative focusing on the number one issue that the American people face, skyrocketing costs. They just can't pay the bills. They just don't have enough money in their pockets to pay the bills, to buy the medicine they need, when your car breaks down to get it fixed and then you'd have no way to get to work, to get the kind of groceries you want for your families. Costs are skyrocketing. And Democrats, in 2026, you'll be hearing from us about costs over and over and over again. On the contrary, Donald Trump tonight is going to try to talk about his accomplishments, but it's going to be a very short speech because Donald Trump calls affordability a hoax. He gives himself an A+++ on the economy, as Professor Warren said. Everyone would like to self-grade in her classes too. But if there were an objective grader, it would be F on energy, F on housing, F on groceries, F on healthcare, F on tariffs, which leads to a final grade of F.
Man, we can do the math.
The facts are, Americans are telling a lot different story than Trump's own self-grade. He promised he'd bring costs down on day one. That was his number one promise. That was the number one reason he won the election. And costs are going up and up and up. It's been 331 days since he was sworn in, and the American people are still waiting for his promise to be fulfilled, but it hasn't been. He just lies about it. He just lies. He makes it up. Grocery bills haven't gone down. Electricity costs haven't gone down. Housing costs haven't gone down. The kinds of things you buy at stores haven't gone down. And healthcare hasn't gone down. All of it is going up. The truth is, for too many Americans, costs are just too damn high. The cost of living, the affordability crisis, you can call it whatever you want. But in Trump's America, people are being squeezed in every direction. I just finished my 62-county tour in New York State. I always do it every year. The number one issue in every corner of my state was how hard it is to afford things that you need. Whether it's rural areas, suburban areas, urban areas. Whether it's red, blue, or purple. It's the number one issue that is on people's minds, and Donald Trump and his billionaire buddies just don't get it. Trump, just last week, you know what he said? People should buy fewer toys for Christmas. What kind of bubble is this man in? Does he ever go to the grocery store and have to buy meat? Does he ever have to pay his own electric bill? No. None of these things. Our senators are going to focus on key issues now. Today begins it, but all year long. And we've been doing this all along, but now, in 2026, it is our main focus. Senator Klobuchar has been doing a great job as our DSPC chair, working with me on these issues. Senator Warren will focus on housing costs. Senator Cantwell and Lujan on food and household costs. Senator Heinrich and Whitehouse on energy costs. Senator Wyden and Sanders on health costs. Senators Markey and Warnock on tariffs. We're focusing on the 5 major areas that is making life so much harder for American families. Healthcare, energy, housing, groceries, and tariffs. So on all of these issues, I could go into the specifics, but I'm going to let my colleagues do that. And just say, we believe that the cost of living shouldn't be a constant crisis. It should be something that the American people can live with and contain. And while we don't know what 2026 will bring, I can promise you this: Democrats will fight making costs our highest priority. I've been in great touch with Hakeem Jeffries and our House Democratic team, and they are on the same page, and we're all going to be focused like a laser on this. Republicans are ignoring the affordability crisis. Democrats are fighting to make things more affordable. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Schumer. And we know what is dominating people's discussions at home in the holidays. They're horrified what's going on around the world, yes. They can't stand this chaos. But the thing that is affecting them day in and day out are those bills. Are they going to be able to afford to have their mom in the nursing home? Are they going to be able to have to choose between paying for groceries or filling their prescriptions? That's what's happening right now in this country, and more than 70% of Americans, 70%, this is a poll out today, an NPR poll, say the cost of housing, groceries, healthcare, and utilities are going up. And guess what? Their bills don't lie. Their premium notices don't lie. So the piece of this that Senator Sanders, as ranking on the Health Committee, and Senator Wyden are focused on, they couldn't be here today, is health care. I think you know where Americans are on health care because you just saw it over the last few months when we focused on the premiums. And the fact that they would not even get out of their MAGA shell just a little bit to help with their constituents when 75% of the people on the Affordable Care Act plans that are seeing these double and triple of premiums are in red states. They're in their states. And so you see a scramble, but they yet have able to come up with any health care plan that is coming up for a vote that could help their constituents on premiums. But we're going to make the case in this report on health care that it's much deeper than that. The big, beautiful betrayal of the bill, look what it did on Medicaid. When I'm out at rural hospitals, when my colleagues are in rural hospitals, that's what we hear about. They're already hardly hanging on a thin margin. And when you mess around with the Affordable Care Act plans, when so many of them are in rural and 27% of our farmers and ranchers are on these plans, and you add to that these Medicaid cuts, and then you add, as Senator Lujan will discuss, these grocery increases, they just can't afford it. And the last thing that I don't think is always the elephant in the room when it comes to health care and the safety net for people that no one talks about is long-term care. I knew the exact day that my dad was going to run out of his savings. He'd had 3 marriages, lost a lot of his money. We're not going to go into that. That's for a more amusing press conference, I guess. But he then had was going to turn to Medicaid. I knew what that day was. I knew when I was going to have to move him into a different nursing home that took Medicaid. That's how so many people are feeling right now. So these cuts they've made to Medicaid is not just about health care. It's also about long-term care and the fact that Americans need leaders and leadership in Congress and in the White House that's going to stand up for them. So that's what we're up to. And the next person coming up is Senator Whitehouse. He and Senator Heinrich are leading the group when it comes to energy costs.
Thanks, Amy. So 2 things to know about energy-related costs. One is that electric bills are going to keep going up for people. And electric bills are going to keep going up for people because they are being driven up on purpose by the Trump administration. To understand how that works, you have to understand how the generation stack works, how units get called up as electric demand grows. And what you see when you actually look at how the real world responds to energy demand is you see that solar and wind and battery and nuclear are the inexpensive ones that are called up first. And when you pull them off the grid, when you sabotage clean energy, as Trump and his minions are trying to do, you drive that demand further and further up the grid. So a customer pays more for getting access to that power from the grid, and a big fossil fuel donor gets to run a plant that would otherwise be idle because it's too expensive to run. It's money directly from consumers to Trump's big fossil fuel donors. So this is not only a cost problem, but it is a corruption case, and we intend to make it aggressively. The other area is on homeowners insurance, which is exploding in cost around the country. In some areas, it's the biggest cost people face. In Florida, the homeowners insurance market is in full meltdown. $14,000 a year average already and climbing dramatically. And it's that way because the Trump administration won't look at extreme weather and climate change. They can't do it because they're too tied to the fossil fuel donors who they're serving. And so the homeowners insurance problem is going to get worse, whether it's coastal storms, whether it's Midwestern hail, or whether it's Western wildfire. It is going to get worse, and it's going to cascade into mortgage markets and decreases in property values. This is a big story that we're going to tell, and we're going to hang the blame on President Trump and his corrupt fossil fuel donors, which is exactly where the blame belongs. Thank you.
Senator Warren.
And I was just introduced by Senator Whitehouse. So Donald Trump promised on day one that he would lower costs for families. And now here we are with costs up, up, up for American families. Housing is the #1 cost for families all across this country, and the #1 concern for families all across this country. Housing costs are not just up, they are way up. So, for example, the cost of rent up 4% since Donald Trump has been inaugurated. The price of new listings of homes up 22% since Donald Trump was inaugurated. And the really scary one, the number of foreclosures in this country up 20% since Donald Trump became president. Today, the average age of a first-time home buyer in America has hit 40 years old. This tells us just how hard it is for people trying to get into the housing market and how hard it is for people who are trying to sustain their housing costs. The reason that we have this housing crisis right now can be laid directly at the feet of Donald Trump and the Republicans. The tariffs that Donald Trump has put into place have increased the cost of building a new housing unit in America on average by $11,000. So our one hope, and that is to increase supply, is something that Donald Trump has directly driven the price up on. Now, Democrats have been busy on the housing front for this whole year, and we worked with our colleagues across the aisle here in the Senate and got a housing bill through unanimously. A bill that was aimed toward increasing housing supply in all parts of America, rural America, urban America, first-time home buyers, senior living, renters, purchasers. It's a good bill. It passed the Senate unanimously. And what happened? Republicans in the House put a stop to it. So there we have it. Through tariffs and through obstruction of legislation, Republicans are directly driving up the cost of housing right now in America. So we have a message. If Republicans are not going to bring down the cost of housing, then leave it to the Democrats, because when we're in charge of this place, we are going to bring down housing costs. And with that, Senator Markey, my partner from Massachusetts.
Senator Markey and Senator Warnock are heading up our tariff work.
Thank you. So what should be a season of giving has become a season of paying for 36 million American small businesses. Paying more for healthcare, paying more for electricity, paying more for just about everything because of Trump's tariffs. And instead of making it affordable to start and run a small business, Trump is turning Main Street into Pain Street across our nation. And last week, in a move that would shame Ebenezer Scrooge, the Republicans, House and Senate, are denying 22 million Americans the tax subsidies they need to pay for their health insurance. And on January 1st of next year, those 22 million Americans are going to be faced with healthcare catastrophe. Either they're going to lose their health insurance or the price is going to double for them. Now, here's the story. For small businesses, 10 million of the 22 million people are either small business owners or work in a small business. They're Kiwanians. They're Rotarians. They're local Chamber of Commerce members. And their workers are just the regular people in town working at those small businesses. They are going to be pummeled because of that healthcare cost increase. 10 million of the 22 million going to small businesses. Electricity rates are going up 13%. That pummels small businesses in our country. They don't have the same flexibility big businesses have to pay that bill, and electricity costs, as Senator Whitehouse said, are going to skyrocket even more next year. So for those small businesses, they are confronted with tariffs that are punishing them. intensely. Business is down for small businesses in our country during this Christmas season. The tariffs on their goods for food, for clothing, for toys, even for Christmas trees, skyrocketing and affecting their profitability. So Trump refuses to do anything about those tariffs. If you're a big business, you can go in and give them a gift, and maybe they'll take care of your company. But small businesses can't do that. They don't have an extra million, to be able to donate to the new Trump ballroom, to be able to pay for a party down in Mar-a-Lago. So they are suffering, and they're right on the front lines of this healthcare, electricity, and tariff regime that is punishing those Main Street firms all across our country. It's Robin Hood in reverse. They are taking from the small companies in order to give tax breaks to the CEOs of the biggest companies in our country. And ultimately, it's not a wonderful life on Main Street this year for small businesses. They are absolutely suffering, and it's been my great honor to partner on this issue with the great senator from the state of Georgia, Raphael Warnock.
Thank you so much. My colleague, Senator Markey, describes it right. What we're witnessing is Robin Hood in reverse. They are literally taking money from the bottom and giving it to the folks at the top. Socialism for the rich. Donald Trump promised the families across our country and the families of Georgia, where he won and where I won, that he was going to lower their costs. And he's done the exact opposite. Everywhere I go across the state, from cities to rural communities, from my hometown of Savannah to Atlanta, to small towns in between, the story is the same. In blue districts in Georgia and red districts in Georgia, their dollar is not going far enough. And it's getting worse. And this is a result of tariffs. But I think every time we say tariffs, we ought to be really clear about what a tariff is. It's a tax. And so let's be clear. They have given a historic tax cut to the wealthiest of the wealthy, and they are taxing all the rest of us. And families are feeling the pinch. He promised them that he'd drive their costs down. Instead, he's taken an extra $1,200 out of the pockets of Georgia families this year alone. And next year is estimated to be $1,700. That's real money for ordinary people who cannot contribute to a White House ballroom. These reckless tariff taxes are especially difficult on young families. Some of the young people in my church who are married or who are planning on getting married, who are having children, they are seeing that the cost of everything from cribs to strollers to baby monitors, all of it has spiked. Donald Trump has made it difficult to start and grow a family in America. Almost half of all families say that they're buying less gifts this holiday season because of the increase in prices. I was at a small business a few weeks ago, and it's a chocolate manufacturer. Our own living Willy Wonka. It was fun to be there. But I have to tell you, those folks are small business are really struggling, because not only is the price of sugar going up for them, not only has the price of cocoa beans gone up for them, the very paper that they wrap the chocolate in has gone up. And as a result of that, they have had to raise prices on their customers, and they've had difficulty making long-term investments. They would like to have a tariff waiver. But this small business, these owners don't know anybody in the administration to call. They don't have anybody that they can bribe in order to get a tariff waiver. And so Donald Trump said that he'd give himself an A+. And then, no, then he thought about it. He said, on second thought, it's actually A++++. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, who was he talking about? If this economy is the best that Donald Trump can provide, the question is good for whom? Certainly not the people that I talk to in rural Georgia. And so it's clear that he could do something about this. Let me be really clear. The Congress could fix this. Tariffs are in the wheelhouse of Congress. And if our Republican friends were actually working for the people who elected them, we could fix this tomorrow. But Donald Trump is working for his billionaire friends, and Washington Republicans are working for him. Democrats are working for you.
All right, excellent. And next up, the number one issue that Americans are focused on when it comes to cost is groceries and household items. Ben Ray heads up the very important Ag Subcommittee on this, and then he's pairing up with Maria, who's the Ring Can Commerce. Ben Ray.
Thank you, Amy. Look, you all go to the grocery store, you know how much more you're paying. There's a lot of coffee drinkers in here because I see some of you in the morning. It's not just the coffee that's more expensive, it's the cup. Every input that goes into that coffee is more and more expensive. Some of you might enjoy bananas in the morning if you're fortunate to get some. Cost of bananas through the roof. And look, you're trying to get ground beef or maybe even a cut of steak or something, a roast, to try to feed the family yourselves. Up, 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 up. There's just no question. And as Raphael said, look at families that have little ones. Strollers, diapers, baby monitors, everything is going up. Plain and simple, President Trump lied to the American people. He fooled them. He said to them, when they were in need, I'm going to lower your costs. And he kept lying and lying and lying and lying. Let's see what happens tonight. President Trump's going to go try to just make up some more facts and say, no, 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 it's just your imagination. That beef's not 23 or 33% more expensive. It's just your imagination. There's less money in your checking account. No, 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 that's just your imagination. It's one lie after another. Everything is getting more expensive. It's Donald Trump's tariffs, taxes that are just reaching, where President Trump reaches into the pockets of the American people and is taking $1 after another. One lie after another. Enough is enough. On top of all of that, many of you have reported about the negative impact to small farmers and ranchers. I don't know that I've read many stories about the costs to grocery stores. If you all examine what's happening with independent grocery stores across America, I think 12% on average.
Alrighty, Senate Democrats there holding their weekly press conference. That was moments ago over on Capitol Hill. Want to take you to a story that we're watching right now on the House floor. Lawmakers discussing the Affordable Care Act subsidies. Of course, it failed to vote in the Senate just about 2 weeks ago now. Your Senator Jamie Raskin, the Democrat, speaking on the House floor. Let's listen in for just a moment.
For us to be overriding the state medical boards in order to bulldoze into people's living rooms and their kitchen tables to usurp the family decision-making process of Americans across the country. We reserve. Oh, I'm sorry. If I could, I see Representative Salinas has arrived. Will yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentlelady from Oregon.
Gentlelady from Oregon is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to this disgusting bill that does nothing to protect children's innocence. It endangers parents, healthcare providers, and children. It allows healthcare providers and parents to be fined and possibly jailed if they help a minor access life-saving care. And it permits federal law enforcement to act as the national gender police, allowing them to invade children's private medical records. This bill puts even more children in harm's way and exacerbates the mental health crisis that our young people are facing because it stops them from actually receiving the care that they need right now. Madam Speaker, why is our focus on this when what I'm hearing from constituents is that Republicans are falling short in addressing the cost of groceries, healthcare, and housing? To my Republican colleagues, why not focus on the issues that will impact millions of families who are just one paycheck away from homelessness or losing their health care, instead of waging a war on children's genitals? What is this unhealthy obsession? Let's end it today by voting no on H.R. 3492. I yield back.
Gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Alabama is recognized.
So essentially what you're watching here, House lawmakers, they are discussing a Republican health care bill. Democrats, of course, opposed to it. Let's listen in here. This is a Republican side of the argument now.
Psychological well-being of adolescents and gender dysphoria. And I'm kind of reminded of a quote that Vanderbilt University doctor said in 2022. He said, "These affirming procedures are huge money makers." And so we're here to protect the children. And with that, I'll yield 2 minutes to my friend, Mr. Moore from West Virginia.
Gentleman from West Virginia is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise in strong support of this legislation, and I want to thank Congresswoman Green for bringing this bill up for debate here on the floor. I'm a proud original co-sponsor of this legislation, and we've heard a couple people say, we are made in the image of likeness in God, and for all of our clever scientific methods and self-rationalization out there, that is an absolute truth. And what this legislation is trying to do, and what it's going to do, God willing it's signed into law, is prevent child abuse, because that is what's going on in this country by allowing this. It's going to make it a felony for anybody to continue this abusive genital mutilation in this country to minors, to children. It's abhorrent what is being allowed right now in this country. And a felony, I think, is what's going to be able to stop this. And it should have been a felony a long time ago.
Okay, we're going to continue to listen in. I'm sorry, there's so many events, and I want to get to all of it, because we do have some other headlines that we're also following. I want to take you to this feed. We're just getting in within the last few moments. This is over at the Pentagon. Maybe here. We'll go to it now. They are holding a Christmas ceremony. It has to do with religion here. It's going to be a Christmas worship service. That's at the Pentagon. We'll watch this. It doesn't look like it's quite started just yet. We'll keep our eyes peeled on that event when it begins. Just moments ago in D.C., Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, he spoke at an event on the future of aviation. We're going to attempt here to air his remarks for just a moment. We also want to note here, before we dive into that, we are waiting on a press conference on that Brown University shooting. We've listened in now to a few of these press conferences, and we've seen them happening. So we will wait to get a feed into that room. As soon as it starts, we will take you there. But a lot of news that we are monitoring right now. We're going to try to get it all to you really at the same time. We're here. We're going to do all of it. So let's go over Sean Duffy moments ago speaking in Washington, D.C. At an event called, I believe it's Unleashing the Future of Flight. Let's listen in.
I said 20. He said it so well done. Thank you. Hey, it's great to be with everybody. Wonderful crowd. Exciting day, and not just exciting because Administrator Bedford is in his second day of testifying on Capitol Hill, but he is, which I know you've all probably watched. It's very exciting. But it's a big day for us. It's a big announcement. But I think we should take a step down memory lane for a moment to recognize what today is. Today is the 122nd anniversary of the Wright brothers' first flight at Kitty Hawk. These were bike mechanics. We all know the story, Dayton, Ohio. And they were trying to answer the question, can man fly? And we didn't know if man could fly. It was a question. And they answered that question 122 years ago today. And it was their innovation, their creativity, how bold they were. They didn't give up, and from what they did 122 years ago has fundamentally changed the world forever. How we move, how products move, radically transformed the way the world works. And as we look at America, Dayton, Ohio, Wright brothers, it's been America who has continued to lead in aviation. Whether it's the first solo transatlantic flight, the first around-the-world flight, or it's breaking the sound barrier, winning the space race, or the fact that we launched the jet age. It's in America where we innovate in aviation. But now we come to 2025, And I think we all recognize aviation is changing, and changing very quickly. And the question becomes, are we going to continue to lead in aviation? And we're going to look at eVTOLs and drones and supersonic flight. All are radically changing at this moment in time. And the country and the companies that are the greatest innovators are the ones that are going to win. So that's why we're here today. Today we're unveiling the first ever national strategy for advanced air mobility. So this technology, whether it's an electric aircraft or electric vertical takeoff or landing aircraft, it has untold applications. And everyone comes to my office and tells me all the great applications that their vehicle is going to have and how it's going to change the world and how everyone's excited about it, and they are. So it's going to enhance emergency response and improve access for healthcare. It's going to give us different regional mobility. Where we live, where we work can fundamentally change with an eVTOL. Faster cargo operations and last mile delivery will radically change with this technology. And it's going to be easier for aviation training. But America's not the only one that's innovating. Some of our adversaries are chomping at our heels, or we're chomping at their heels. The race is on, and that adversary, for the most part, is China. And if you look at what happened with drones, we ceded drone territory to the Chinese, and now we're playing catch up. We are not going to cede this territory to the Chinese. We are going to lead, and we are going to win because we are going to out-innovate. And so our purpose, create a roadmap to enable this exciting technology. So that's what we're going to do today. Talk about the strategy, which is the 40 recommendations that we are making to support the innovation in this space. And broad concepts, modernizing our airspace so they can handle the increased traffic, building an all-new infrastructure like vertiports, bolstering safety, properly accounting for security concerns so our enemies can't take advantage of this technology and then use it against us, and developing a workforce of the future to support this new industry. So here's the bottom line. America, again, for the fourth time, is going to lead. We led in the past, we are going to lead for the next 100 years. And President Trump has been very clear. He wants to take away, not all of them, but a lot of the rules and regulations that will inhibit the innovators. He wants to set them free. He wants to actually win in America again. And so thanks to his leadership, we are building a brand new air traffic control system, which, by the way, the big beautiful bill gave us $12.5 billion. It's a great first start. We need 20 billion more. So as you go talk to the Hill and mention whatever you're going to talk to the Hill about, if you want to say, by the way, give Duffy 20 extra $1 billion, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. We're hiring a historic number of air traffic controllers. We've launched a new pilot program to test the real-world applications of AAM aircraft in the field, and we put forward a new rule to expand how drones can be used in the airspace. And finally, we're supporting a return of supersonic flight. All incredibly exciting advancements. And this, I gotta tell you, I couldn't be prouder of our DOT team and our FAA team. They have done remarkable work. And I think that government oftentimes moves too slow. And oftentimes government can be afraid of taking risks. And you always have to manage your risk. But if we just sit in our silos and don't take risk, America loses. We have to let innovation take place. And with innovation, we take risk with that. And we in government can't be afraid of taking that risk. And it has to be managed. It has to be calculated. But we have to allow this technology to develop here. And that's what we're committed to doing. And again, the FAA team, the DOT team have worked tirelessly to make sure that America is the home of this innovation. We're going to build these aircraft here, and we are going to export them around the world with American jobs. What we don't want is those products to be built somewhere else and imported to this country. A lot of problems with that, but one of the main problems is it's a national security risk for this country. I also want to thank the White House OSTP Director, Michael Kratzowitz, who has done a fantastic job supporting this, as well as Brendan Carr from the FCC. He has been a remarkable partner. There he is. He's going to talk to you guys in a little bit. But also, Congressman Mann has been a fierce leader in Congress, making sure that we were able to get to this point today. And what I want to leave you with is, we are looking for the best ideas, how we can improve the rules that we put out, the structure that we give you, all critically important. And what you see under President Trump's leadership, which I think is remarkable, you have a government that's all trying to work together. We're trying to collaborate and coordinate together so you don't have to go to 25 different agencies. We can make one set of rules, and so you can do what you do best, which is create, grow, innovate. I couldn't be, again, prouder of the team. I couldn't be prouder of President Trump's leadership, unleashing all of us to do bold things. I'm excited for what the future holds. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to today. Thank you all for being here. God bless, and let's win the future.
Secretary of Transportation there, Sean Duffy, on a new initiative in aviation. We are watching a number of feeds. Before we get to all of that, I want to note, tonight, President Donald Trump will address the nation. You can watch coverage live right here on Brookland News and a BN special report. That's to come at 8 p.m. Central. Excuse me. Expected to address what the future looks like and his accomplishments he's already conducted. Okay, we want to turn to some other news that we are following right now. An update to come here at the top of the hour we expect on this Brown University shooting. Something I want to, I kind of compliment what we've been seeing with these press conferences. It's kind of rare in moments like this that we have seen so many press conferences, so many updates. Of course, that suspect in this shooting still on the loose at this moment in time. We want to play some video that is coming in right now. This is new video. There we go. It should be on your screen any moment now. New video just in. A closer look at this suspect who, again, remains on the loose. Police still looking for him. It's unknown. I mean, it's been over multiple days now. It's unclear where he's at now. Police at this point still indicating he could still be in Providence. This appears to be video before the shooting occurred, showing him walking around in front of neighborhoods. He looked a little suspicious in this video, but they've kind of zoomed it in for us and all the clips they've released as the search for this suspect again continues. If you remember, he opened fire in the Bars and Holly building in Brown University at Providence, Rhode Island, killing 2, injuring 9 others. There you go. There's some video there showing maybe a little bit more of what we can see of this suspect. He escaped. It was an overnight search, now turned into a day's worth search. We expect this update to come at 3 p.m. Central, so that update to come pretty soon here in just about 20 minutes as you can continuously take a look at some of that video that we are getting in. So we will keep our eyes on everything in this case, and you can expect, if you'll stick right here with us, as soon as we get that update, we will take you out live to that press conference. So a lot going on, a lot to talk about. What we want to turn to right now, that forecast, what things are looking like right now outside. I'll tell you, allergies getting to me just a little bit here. Let me show you, I believe we have it. There we go. Here's what the forecast looks like right now. Of course, today, a high of 55, a low of 50. Some possible showers were expected. They were expected to be really scattered, so maybe not directly here in Brooklyn, but we'll keep our eye on that by tomorrow. High of 60, low of 30, so a cold start to the morning. Gonna be raining. Thunderstorms expected. A high of 60, so we'll see what things look like there. By Friday, a high of 45, a low of 37. We're gonna see the sun peek out. I'll note right here in Brooklyn, we saw the sun peek out today. Thought it was quite interesting as we keep our eye on what the winter weather is doing. Okay, we've just got an eye on some video coming into us. A worship service happening right now. You see there, Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. I believe that's the Secretary of Small Businesses, maybe. A few cabinet members there as this Christmas worship service is being held over at the Pentagon. We'll keep our eyes on this, but I do want to turn to something else here. Trump posting this on True Social yesterday, announcing some new developments in this kind of rift between Venezuela and fuel tankers. Here's what he said. Quote, Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, we're going through. So, Trump in this post here ordering a blockade of sanctioned oil tankers leaving and entering Venezuela. So we're just sorry guys, I'm trying to put things together as the stories come in. This is Trump again on True Social. I'll read it for you. It's a little hard. I'm not sure if you guys can see it on your screen. It's hard to read on mine as well, so I'm gonna have to zoom it in here. But it reads, Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. It will only get bigger, and the shock to them will be like nothing they have ever seen before until such time as they return to the United States of America. All of the oil, land, and other assets that they previously stole from us. The illegitimate Maduro regime is using oil from these stolen oil fields to finance themselves drug terrorism, human trafficking, murder, and kidnapping. That's just a part of this post that's on your screen right now from President Donald Trump on True Social, ordering a blockade here of all sanctioned oil tankers. That's the new development we're getting in from Venezuela, of course, as that rift continues between the United States here. Want to go back for just a moment because, again, we're still waiting an update on the Brown University shooting that occurred back last week, last Saturday. President Donald Trump reacted to some of this on social media, also on True Social, saying, quote, why did Brown University have so few cameras? There can be no excuse for that. In the modern age, it just doesn't get worse. President DJT, want to note here, the building, the Boris and Holly building where the shooting occurred, it essentially was an older building and a newer building that were put together here. So we'll see what comes out in this press conference. Maybe we'll see some new videos, though. The Attorney General in a more recent press conference saying kind of it's the best video that they've got. And I mean, we were just watching that video a few moments ago as we await this update here, but I mean, it wasn't anything crazy. There was no direct view of the suspect. I feel like we've had before, I think in prior times you've had a larger visual, I should say, on what that is. We're continuing to watch the impacts of temporary protected status hearing over in the House side on Capitol Hill as they continue that hearing. We're going to continue doing that. We're also watching the House floor this hour as they debate ahead of a vote on a GOP-backed bill. Unclear how many Republicans might side with Democrats here. It's the bill on health care. So we'll have to watch where that goes. We're going to go back over here, though, to this camera at this temporary protected service hearing happening right now, again, on the House side. Let's listen in.
We have seen in modern history of this great nation. Congress needs to act to make sure criminals, gang members, cartels, and terrorists never set foot on American soil. And as somebody that served and fought in combat for this great nation, that's exactly why I serve this country, and that's exactly why I continue to serve in the halls of Congress to continue to protect my fellow Americans. Mr. Shalosky, thank you for being here, sir. In your testimony, you stated that many residents in your town have serious concerns about housing capacity, safety resources, school support, and healthcare resources. You also made it clear that your city did not sign up to be used as a test subject. Let me make it clear, your request to Congress is not absurd, it's not cruel, but rather reasonable and based on common sense, and I want to thank you for that. What your town has experienced is unfair, it's unjust, it's un-American. With that being said, I want to give you some time to expand on how your common sense request will benefit your community and local residents.
I think everything begins with communication, and there wasn't any from the start. If that would have been brought to the table, I think the dialogue would have become more healthier. All this has caused is a lot of division and a lot of hate. Sorry to say that. I feel that from the federal government to the state government, if this would have been handled more professionally, I think everyone at the table in our small community could have came up with a good solution. But being that we weren't permitted to be involved and they dumped these immigrants into our community, and again, I have compassion for them too. They're human beings, as I stated. But this went over and above something that should have been placed in a small town such as Charleroy, Pennsylvania.
So are you xenophobic?
Pardon?
Are you xenophobic?
Pardon?
Are you xenophobic? Are you racist? Are you xenophobic? Do you hate immigrants? Do you hate people that come to this country looking for a better way of life? Do you hate them or?
Sir, I have 3 biracial grandchildren who I love.
Well, I'll be damned. So this is literally about keeping your community safe and literally about what it means to be an American regardless of the way you look. It's about taking care of our citizens. Would you agree with that assessment, sir?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for your passion. I really, really appreciate that. I got a minute left, and I want to end with this. Under the Biden administration, our country was invaded by illegal immigrants, period. It was an invasion. Over 20 million people entered this country illegally, which is completely unacceptable. And now the Trump administration has taken decisive action to clean this mess up and to make sure that we don't ever see anything like we saw for the past 4 years again. President Trump got reelected in large part because of what happened at our southern border. And as a Texan, as somebody that bore the brunt of a lot of these issues and a lot of these problems during the Biden administration, I'm here to tell you that I'm utterly disgusted at what I saw. And no, I am not racist, and no, I am not xenophobic. I'm a person that's want to die for my country, and I'm a person that fought for my country in combat. And I want everyone to know this, that Americans need to be the top priority in our country. Every other country in the world operates like that, and so should we. Thank you for being here. God bless you, and Merry Christmas, sir.
Okay, so you're listening to a House committee there meeting on a temporary protected service order. It's the mechanicism by which executive branch positions that typically require Senate confirmation can be filled quickly when a vacancy occurs. We are going to go back, though, to the House floor. We've been seeing lawmakers discuss for quite some time. We're watching for a GOP-backed healthcare bill vote to come. Democrats, of course, not backing it. And I'm told, I've read a little bit now, some Republicans siding with Democrats here, not backing this healthcare bill. So we're going to listen into the House of Representatives here, as we believe they are now debating this healthcare bill. Before we do that, I want to note, this was created by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course. She's the Republican from Georgia who is now planning to exit Congress in January after kind of a little bit of a rift, a little bit of a kind of back and forth between her and President Trump. Let's listen in, though.
By the time we were in the 6th grade, we were on the gym floor trying to decide whether or not to ask. We didn't have the courage to ask the girls to dance. And by the time we were in the 10th or 11th grade, we were hoping they would notice us in the hallways. And by the time we were seniors, maybe we had the courage to ask them on a date, and maybe they said yes. But you know, the decisions that they're wanting to make, these are kids that are in the 2nd and 3rd grade. These are not kids that are either old enough to understand that we might be interested, we might want to, go the direction, like Marjorie said, only 12% of the males who go through this actually stick with it. So it's important to us to understand that these are children, and in many cases, they are being bullied by the physicians. You know, one of the physicians in Vanderbilt said we make a boatload of money on these procedures, and often I think that it's more about the children and protecting the children than driving this ideological left wing, whatever it is, and a mutilation of our children. So with that, I'll yield back, and thank you.
The gentleman yields back. All time for debate on the bill has expired. The chair understands that amendment number 1, printed in the House Report 119-411, will not be offered. Pursuant to House Resolution 953, the previous question is ordered on the bill as amended. The question is on engrossment and third reading of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to amend Section 116 of Title 18 United States Code with respect to genital and bodily mutilation and chemical castration of minors.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Vermont seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
Clerk will report the motion.
Ms. Ballant of Vermont moves to recommit the bill, H.R. 3492, to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Pursuant to Clause 2B of Rule 19, the previous question is ordered on the motion to recommit. The question is on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it. The motion is not agreed to.
Madam Speaker, I ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed. Reading. I love doing this.
Alrighty, so again, you are watching the House of Representatives there as they are continuing to debate a bill, a GOP-backed healthcare bill. We've heard them talk a little bit about kind of subsidies. Of course, I shouldn't say that, but I want to let me get my thoughts straight. The healthcare subsidies that Democrats had originally wanted, of course, it went up for a vote in the Senate. It failed. I want to note we have gotten a camera into Providence, Rhode Island. You will see it there in the right bottom box there. We're still working on getting a few things put together to full screen that feed. So again, this is in Providence, Rhode Island. We'll take you to that feed. This is full screen there, as again, at the top of the hour, we do expect an update, a press conference. We just heard a person that kind of runs the press talking a little, saying that you could ask a question and then one follow-up question, and that we're going to kind of be the rules. Of course, is expected to start here in just a few moments, 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock here Central Time. It's 3:57 Eastern as we will watch what happens there. We'll keep our eyes on it. Okay, well, we do have a few seconds here, of course. No press conference, I don't think ever, rarely has ever started on time. It is a very rare occurrence for it to do so. So what we're going to do here, we're going to take it to another headline that we are following right now. on the death of Rob and Michelle Reiner. Before we take you there, here's what we're going to do. We're going to sneak in a quick break here. We'll have more on, of course, this press conference we expect in a few moments and more coming up in just a moment. Okay, welcome back here on the Brooklyn News Live. So President Donald Trump just we literally just saw him. He took a few questions, it appears, from the press. This appears maybe as he arrives back to Joint Base Andrews. This is a feed from Live Now from Fox from just moments ago. Let's listen in.
Now looking down, and their parents and wives and all of the people that were there were, devastated, but great people, great people. So thank you very much for being there. Yeah, she's doing a great job. Just a blockade. Not going to let anybody going through that shouldn't be going through. You remember they took all of our energy rights. They took all of our oil from not that long ago, and we want it back. But they took it. They illegally took it. Oh, Dan did a great job. I think he wants to go back to his show. Yeah, I do. Getting land, oil rights, whatever we had, they took it away because we had a president that maybe wasn't watching. But they're not going to do that. We want it back. They took our oil rights. We had a lot of oil there. As you know, they threw our companies out, and we want it back. Well, I think the message this evening is we inherited a mess, and we've done a great job, and we continue to. And our country is going to be stronger than ever before very soon. Thank you very much, everybody.
President Donald Trump there just moments ago at Joint Base Andrews taking questions really quickly. Our thanks to Live Now for Fox for having that feed. We solid pop up on all of our cameras back here. We have, if you've ever noticed that TV behind us, always we have so many. We've two TVs here. One TV is playing 4 feeds. The other TV is playing 4 other feeds. So we saw it. We wanted to get it to you. We found a way to do it. So that was again President Donald Trump earlier, really I should say just moments ago. Okay, we got a camera into Providence, Rhode Island, because we expect here in just a moment, at again the top of the hour, really any moment now, we expect an update on the Brown University shooting. Of course, that leaving 2 dead, 9 others injured. We are standing by for that to begin. As soon as it does, we will take you there. Of course, they just recently released new video. We showed it to you a little earlier this hour. I should say last hour. There you go. There's that new video, kind of zoomed in a little bit, in a little bit of a box there, zoomed in, showing us some better views that we have. So we will play that in full as soon as we get it. Alrighty, I want to turn quickly to another story. We're going to do it right before the break, and then we kind of had to throw it to break, and TV chaos, I would say, trying to get all these stories in. So Nick Reiner, the son of Michelle and Rob Reiner, of course, the movie star, TV producer, was in court today. He wasn't actually in court because we learned there was going to be, he wasn't in the right condition. That's at least according to his lawyer here. Wasn't in the right mental condition. And so that date was postponed. We have it's about 3 minutes of video. We want to show it to you here because we believe we do have enough time here showing this court hearing. Of course, again, Nick Reiner was not in court due to awaiting a mental health evaluation. Okay, I'm lying. We are going to not go to the story right now because a press conference is getting underway right now in Providence, Rhode Island. Let's go live there and listen in.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to our daily briefing. I want to start by just acknowledging how the residents of Providence and the students and campus community at Brown are still feeling restless and eager for an arrest. And we understand and share that feeling. We are also eager for an arrest. The investigation is well underway, and we'll hear an update in just a second from Colonel Perez and Attorney General Nerona. But I want to reemphasize that in the Providence community and with the governor's help, really in the broader Providence community, we have tightened security and we have neighbors looking out for one another, and we will get through this. I know our city, and we are a resilient community, and we are a city that will support one another as we move forward in this scary time. Just because you're feeling unsafe doesn't mean that that's invalid. We know that that's real, but we are doing everything we can to both advance this investigation, but also to provide the support necessary as we move forward and take the first steps together that we need to, as a city, to start to recognize that kids need to go to school and people need to go to work, and we appreciate the courage and sometimes even tentative steps forward that we're taking as we start to move forward as a community. At this time, I'd like to introduce Colonel Oscar Perez, who will give an update on the investigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. If we can please show the photo that we released earlier today. So we have released this enhanced photo earlier today, and I want to be clear that this is a person that we would like to speak with. We truly believe, based on the video footage that we have been watching for throughout a few days, that it may have relevant information to the investigation. So we're asking the public that you can help us identify who this individual is, as well as the individual themselves sees their picture, to please contact the police department. As far as one thing that I want to mention, I want to urge you, the public, not to rely on or circulate AI-generated images that are currently being shared on social media, as they're not verified or credible. As well, the updates and information that you're getting will be provided exclusively through this department's official channels. I want to make sure that we make that happen, and please notify the public to make sure that that occurs. I would also like to clarify and show a map. Please, if you can play the map. So the map here that you see is actually a map of the area that we have been intensively walking on those streets, canvassing the area. So as you see the blue image, yesterday I mentioned that we need the public's assistance to check their camera assistance or any sort of video that you may have that could be helpful to us, that you, as you're watching it or as you're reviewing it, you feel there may be something that we can use, please notify us. And if you need any help with that, viewing those videos, please also call us. We can come over and help you. The green area, that's color, that's when we have confirmed where the subject was prior to the shooting. The red areas, we have also confirmed that that's the immediate area where he left after the shooting. And so this is the map that actually we have so far. We walked it all. We're still actively investigating, and we're still actively having agents, Providence police officers, members of the state police. There is about 9 federal agencies that are assisting us with this investigation, adding the state police as well as the Providence police and other municipalities. Again, I would like to reiterate, if you have any tips, please call the 272-3121 or the FBI link at fbi.gov/Brown University shooting. Thank you.
Attorney General Peter Nerona for an update. Okay. Thank you, General. One additional update from me, and then we'll be happy to take your questions. First, I want to just take a moment to recognize and honor the memory of Ella Cook and Muhammad Aziz Umerzakov, who are the 2 deceased victims from this tragedy, and update you on the status of the survivors. Yesterday, we mentioned that one individual had been discharged. I'm happy to report that another individual has been discharged today. That leaves 1 survivor in critical but stable condition and 5 in stable conditions. The parents that I spoke with today all reported that their kids were improving. So this is a happy announcement. But I know the entire Providence community, the entire state of Rhode Island, the governor and I were together at a memorial service last night, mourn the loss and offer our most sincere condolences to the Cook and Umerzakov families. Following up on a note that the Colonel made with respect to AI-generated images and other misinformation, we have created an online folder with all of the video and images that have been released. And we encourage both members of the press, but also members of the community. We know lots of people are sharing information, and we appreciate that. We think that will help with this investigation. But we encourage them to download and share the videos and photos from the website that has been created so that you can ensure that you're sharing an accurate and verified photo and video. That website is now live. It is providenceri.gov/tips, TIPS. providenceri.gov/tips is an online file folder that has the videos and photos that have been released to date, and it will be updated as we progress. There's been lots of conversation up here about the heroic work of the hundreds of law enforcement professionals who remain hard at work 24 hours a day and who are, in fact, making progress. I want to close with one additional thank you tonight. All of those tip line calls are coming into the city's telecommunications department, the same folks who answer the 911 calls, and they too have been working tirelessly, and I want to thank the men and women at dispatch and at telecommunications for their diligence. Everyone in the city of Providence truly has a role to play in this investigation, and we're grateful for their assistance. We'll take your questions. John.
Colonel, I have a question for Colonel regarding the map. As he's walking around, I want to establish actually, what's the earliest that this person of interest emerges? I believe you had said Saturday morning at 10:30, but then someone else said maybe a couple days earlier. And I recognize that it fluctuates and this is evolving. But as of right now, what's the earliest that this individual, to your knowledge, shows up on a camera?
About 10:30 a.m. on the date of this tragic incident. However, so like anything else, I also mentioned yesterday that they do case the areas. They do a lot of prior checking for their crime, and so we truly believe that it could be that possibly it was there prior as well. And so we want to make sure that we don't miss anything. And so that's why we're asking the public to help us to ensure within that map area that I mentioned with the borders between Wicked, Brook, all those areas, Gano, that if you have a camera system to reach out to us.
I was in along I Street, Gano today. Tremendous number of federal officials literally going door to door. Would you say this? How would you describe? I mean, it just seems that this is probably right now the most massive, intensive manhunt going on in the world.
I think I agree with you on that, John, and definitely commend the men and women, obviously, and all our federal partners. It's a lot of work, and it's intense, as you stated. It takes a lot to be able to knock on doors, see videos. There's terabytes of videos that you have to look, and I mentioned it yesterday. We're looking for a moment that takes almost less than a second, and if you miss it, you're missing something that could be critical and important for us to use. And so, yes, it's definitely an intense, and I believe that is probably the most intense investigation going on right now in this nation.
Colonel, the second person that you want to talk to, can you drill down at all on any interactions that you believe you may have had with the main person of interest? Do you believe he talked to him? How close was he to him? Any interactions? What can you tell us?
So, yeah, we have video footage that determines to us and the detectives that can tell that this person was in the vicinity where the subject of interest was that we wanted that we actually have an interest on. Close enough that we feel that we need to speak with them to find out what because videos don't speak. If you think about it, I wish the video could speak, and then I'll have the answers that we need to, so that we can continue on this investigation. So we're trying to find out exactly what it is, and that's why we need to speak with them. Please.
Does this person, this new individual, have anything to do with why the person of interest was seen running in the surveillance footage?
Again, I wish the videos could speak. We're trying to get those answers.
And have you found any items of interest during your search, specifically clothing?
Nothing as we speak, no.
Up front here.
Who among law enforcement or other first responders was first on the scene that day, and who came next?
So Brown University was on scene, and then immediately the Providence Police Department within minutes was there.
Back there. Green jacket.
Previously released a video from 216 on the day of the shooting where we see the person of interest come into contact or near another person. Is that the moment that you think this new person and the person of interest might have come close?
That's correct. It's around the area of Benevolent and Cook.
So behind the Rhode Island Historical Society, that corner of Georgia?
Right near that area, correct.
And you had some searches going on in North Attleboro today. Is that connected at all to this case?
I can't confirm. We're all over the place. If a tip comes in and he needs us to go down to Connecticut, we're going down to Connecticut. If a tip comes in and tells us that we got to go to Boston, we're going to Boston.
Right there in the middle, the green jacket. Go ahead.
Is it possible that the second person could become a person of interest?
All we know is that that person was in the vicinity of the subject that we have an interest on, and we want to speak with them.
Missing. Great. Yes, so pretty much the question is just if we can explain in Spanish exactly why we're looking for this individual, or why do we want to speak with them. So, esta persona verdaderamente es alguien que nosotros tenemos un interés de hablar con ellos porque estaba en la área inmediata donde este individuo estaba. Entonces queremos saber más de por qué estaba ahí para explicar la razón y qué interacción hubo.
¿Tienen algún indicativo de que la persona que cometió el tiroteo actuó sola o actuó con alguien más?
Eso es lo que estamos investigando. So we have found a lot of evidence that we need to, and we use and utilize it to hopefully guide us in the right direction in order to identify the individual that we're looking for.
Any of that been DNA evidence?
This actual physical evidence, there's DNA evidence, there's a lot of evidence that we're collecting to ensure that we can find the answer.
Pat.
I got a question for Attorney General Noronha. My understanding from your conversations over the last few days is that the Attorney General's office has taken the lead in terms of doing the investigation. My question is, what's the relationship between the Attorney General's office and the Rhode Island State Police, that we haven't heard much from over the last few days, in terms of who's doing what and what type of time commitment? I do have a follow-up.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we're leading it. I think that we are working closely with our law enforcement investigators. So you divide, I think you can divide, in a case like this, the people involved into two groups. So there are at least 5 prosecutors that have been here since Saturday night. I've been here for a fair chunk of it myself, particularly after hours back at the office. But what those prosecutors are doing, Pat, is asking questions, helping to narrow and inform factual inquiries. Certainly when there's a question, all right, do we have enough to get a search warrant for a house or a car or a buccal swab from a person of interest? They're informing that. So in any complex investigation, both federally and stateside, prosecutors are embedded with the investigative team, and we bring our own heads to the investigation because we have been involved in writing search warrant affidavits and arrest warrant affidavits and wiretaps for years.
And the Rhode Island State Police, what kind of role have they played in terms of investigating? And I still have
Well,
a quick
yeah, the Colonel can answer that, but before you do, Colonel, I just want to make sure that I answer it as well. One of the images that I have most keenly in my mind from a couple nights ago is a state police lieutenant or Derek Melfi talking to John Permiano of the Providence Police, talking to Colin Woods of the FBI, and identifying a certain piece of video evidence that's important to this investigation. And that's how intertwined and cohesive it is, while prosecutors look on and engage at the same time.
So I addressed this question a couple of days ago. So this is a very collaborative effort between all of law enforcement, between the Providence Police, the state police, all of our federal partners. We will continue to develop leads and follow that with the evidence that comes along with that until this perpetrator is apprehended.
Thank you. I have one quick follow-up for the gentleman from Brown University.
Yep.
Can you say for the record and with complete certainty that every bit of digital mass surveillance, whatever type of evidence was collected by the infrastructure of Brown University has been turned over to the Providence Police Department as well as the Attorney General's office? Is the Brown University withholding anything, for the record?
For the record, we are cooperating 100% with law enforcement. We are turning over everything we have to assist in this investigation.
And you have a map, and they are fully aware of whatever surveillance is being taken?
All materials are being provided to law enforcement.
Okay. Tom.
Mayor, thank you very much. Regarding the new person of interest video, who may have had contact with the primary person? Does law enforcement not have the capability to identify and find someone when you have like full face recognition without exposing them to public scrutiny? I have a follow-up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something where you have to investigate. If you don't know who that person is, it's very difficult, and especially if the image is blurred, it's very difficult to identify him. And so if we had that availability to be able to identify him without the assistance of the public, we would. So at this point, we do not, and that's why we're putting it out to the public to assist us in identifying who this person is.
And then with this person of interest that you're looking at today, or this subject that you released today, are we sure it's a man? I know it was brought up in the question before, it could be a man, but are we 100% sure it's a man, or could it be a woman as well?
It's a person that we would like to at least speak with.
But you don't, there's no giving a gender at this time?
No, there isn't.
Colonel, there's a black
Patrick.
satchel that the main person of interest was carrying. In some images, he is seen with it. Some images he is seen without
Sorry,
it.
man.
Have you recovered that black satchel? Do you know if can you tell us whether he was wearing that you strapped over his shoulder.
Yes.
Was he wearing it before the shooting, after the shooting?
He's wearing it at times, definitely on and off, and I think I addressed that yesterday. Obviously, that we see him in the video with it, and then at times we don't see him, just like you stated. So we're assuming that he actually hid it under the coat that he was wearing, but we don't have it, no.
Patrick.
Colonel Perez.
Yes.
The map that you showed, it looks like the perimeter has moved south into the Fox Point area from the immediate places where we've seen video footage. Can you tell me why the level of interest has moved south of the shooting site and into the Fox Point area? Is there new video footage? Is there additional evidence that points towards that area?
I mean, the investigation is intensive, so we're following his path. And he's getting us, the last place we saw him was right at Ives near Pittman. And so that's sort of south, and we're going to continue to check, but that's the last place that we saw him. That's why we moved south, and we may continue to move. It all depends. We want to see as far as we can, how far we can go to identify him.
Are there any other sightings or anything else down by, I mean, that you've extended all the way to like Wickedham where we don't have any?
Correct. We're at Ives and Pittman right now, but potentially could lead us further down to Butler. It could lead us further down south. So we just want to make sure we cover enough.
Steve.
Colonel, can you now explain to us 5 days later how many students were in that classroom? Sadly, 2 lost their lives, 9 others injured. Encouraged about the update today. But can you now say how many kids were in that classroom? And did the gunman come in from the back so these people never knew it was coming? Or did he come in front with full view of everybody?
And that's all part of the interviews, and actually we're cooperating with Brown to get the roster. That was a study hall, so we don't have the number. We're still getting information as far as who was there. I know Brown sent out an email to the students to notify us if they were present, and we're still getting that, so I can't give you an exact account now.
Okay, and then just to follow up, you did say that you lost sight of the gunman at some specific road
Correct.
outside of your perimeter. What
No,
happened?
it's within the perimeter, Steve. Yeah.
Right, and then what happened with him after that? There's no, you have no video where he could have gone from
We're still out there as we speak. There's people out there, detectives out there, there's task force officers. We're trying to figure out what other locations we can find, but we haven't found anything else. But we're knocking on doors and making sure, and that's why I'm putting out the call to the public to assist us. If you happen to be within that box, that borders exactly where we want you to look, then that's exactly why we're here.
Second row here.
Yeah. Inside the classroom, you've done your interviews, you continue to do your interviews. The description that eyewitnesses are giving, does it match the primary person of interest? And what can you say more about the weapon? You know that the TA said that he saw a gun that was so big and so long. Is it possible at this point that the gunman had multiple weapons? Can you swear that?
Yeah, there's definitely, the interviews are definitely telling us that that's the description that we have. And yes, they're describing the weapon. Some people, obviously, you can think it was chaos. And so, well, we're definitely getting some info as far as what the weapon looked like and exactly what was going on in that room. So,
You don't think there's multiple weapons?
no, just that individual.
I just want to jump in here too, because you mentioned a long gun. We are not in a position to say, unless the chief, you want to square it, whether this was a long gun or not. I think that there's been an account from the TA. There are multiple accounts about multiple things, including how this gunman approached the victims. Those are not details that advance the investigation. Why not? They don't advance the investigation because as we interview witnesses, we don't want them to learn facts from these press conferences. We want them to relay the facts that they have in their heads, including a person of interest. So we don't want a person of interest to shape what they're telling us based on what we know as expressed to you about those kinds of details, sir, that you asked. So we're being careful about the facts that we're sharing for that reason, so that when we talk to witnesses, what we're getting is their factual recitation. And as you might imagine, in a situation where there is chaos, and look, people are ducking for cover as well, they should have, you are going to get different accounts, and part of what's going on now is reconciling those accounts. And I don't know, Chief, if you want to weigh in more about the weapon, but I don't want anyone to leave this room thinking that this weapon was a long gun, because that would be a misperception from what I know.
Alex.
In the video released yesterday, it appears that the person of interest is going by a police cruiser that has its lights on. Does that mean that the dash cam in that cruiser was on and activated, and have police been able to recover anything useful from that video?
So that was a brown police cruiser, and I'm not sure if they have body cameras in their cruisers. I don't think they do.
Dash cam, no.
That's, no.
Okay.
I don't want to
And
answer
then
to
my
the chief.
next follow-up question would be, are you working with flock camera experts to try and recover anything from those cameras?
So as you know, we work with Flock, we have LPRs in the city, and we utilize in every resource we can. Yes, Alex. Yeah.
Brian.
Colonel, you mentioned there is other evidence, but at this point, how much of this investigation turns on the public identifying who's in those images? And are you discouraged or surprised that after a couple days of being out there, you haven't gotten anything more concrete?
No, I think this is, like I said it earlier, it's a very intense investigation, and I think it's going to take public assistance. It's actually going to take, obviously, 21st century policing involving technology, but it's also going to take good old-fashioned...
Alrighty, you have been listening in there to a press conference happening now in Providence, Rhode Island. An update on this Brown University shooting as a search for a suspect continues. I do want to quickly apologize for something. I wrongly noted, wrongly said who the governor was. The person speaking there on your screen right now, that is actually the Attorney General, Peter Noronha. I apologize for that. The governor is the one to the far left there standing by the mayor. It is my apologies. It is by mistake. Simply, I'm learning all of these officials' names just as you are. So again, the person speaking there in the black jacket, tie, what appears to be maybe a light blue, maybe white, can't tell from this distance, button-up shirt. That is the Attorney General, Peter Noronha. I do apologize. We are going to listen back in, though.
To the shooter or anybody who may think they know who they are, who may be on the fence?
Well, look, certainly it would behoove everyone, including the shooter, to provide information to law enforcement and to the shooter to turn himself in. He will be caught, and it's just a matter of time before we catch him. And I believe that based on my experience, but also from watching the people in that command post and getting reports from where they're coming back out in the field. They know what they're doing, they're experienced, they're working hard. There's no lack of resources. Everyone's working really well together. And we're going to crack this case. And when we crack it, it's going to come open really quickly.
Strike back, the best.
Thank you. For you, Mayor, have you spoken with local business owners about how much this is impacting their bottom line, especially during the holiday season, and any concerns that they might have about this situation?
Yeah, I have. It's hard work being a small business owner, and this time of year is critical to them. There's a commercial district just off campus called Thayer Street. Those businesses are particularly struggling as both students went home early and some people are avoiding the area. Similarly, there's a couple other commercial districts nearby the area, which is Wickenden Street, as has been discussed here tonight, and Wayland Square. The city's Department of Economic Development, in partnership with the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce, is reaching out to those business owners to look at assistance programs or otherwise try to support them to ensure that their businesses can stay healthy and vibrant through this.
Do you know when those might take effect?
Those conversations started yesterday, and so we're working with the various merchants associations to try to determine what sort of assistance might be most helpful, and when it's ready to announce, we will. Thanks. Please.
My question is for the Colonel. So looking at the team map, there's more video so far of him before than there is after the shooting. Do you think that the person of interest got to the vehicle somewhere within this area, and are you going to go through license plate readers?
Absolutely, yeah, we're looking for that evidence, if there was any vehicles involved. And yes, you're right, he was there earlier, and so that's why we're looking at that as well. And definitely we're using, I mentioned that earlier, the LPRs, the flock, any cameras. That's why we're making a call out to the public to assist us with that. It's all part of those resources that we're going to need, as the general stated, to make that apprehension.
Dan.
I have a question to follow first to the Attorney General. Attorney General Dan Janik, NBC 10.
Hi, Dan.
You had said the other day that you released the person of interest because the DNA didn't match, which would assume that there was DNA of the person of interest in that room. Can you tell us what it was? And if he hasn't committed a crime before, how it makes it a little bit more difficult?
Yeah, so DNA, when it's entered into a nationwide system, can confirm the identity of a suspect or a subject. And certainly the advantage here is that when we find a person of interest, and we can get a search warrant for what we call a buccal swab, we can compare that to a known quantum of evidence. That can rule people in and obviously can rule people out. That's a powerful piece of evidence, but it's not the only evidence. And relatedly to the question about, do we need only the public? The public is going to really help us here by identifying this person, but at the same time, there are other leads coming in through other forms of electronic and other evidence that are taking multiple teams out in different directions. And we're able, through a variety of means, not just DNA evidence, to rule people in or rule people out. And it's a combination of really impressive work by, vector experts in various forms of modern law enforcement techniques.
I have a second question, Brown. So I asked this question out of deep respect, but I asked it for a lot of parents who are frustrated who reached out to me, so please keep that in mind. And they want to know how a school with a $9 billion endowment does not have cameras on one of the older buildings at the edge of the campus where this happened, not even in the front door, who's coming and going. Now, they asked this question knowing that the shooter may have done whatever he wanted, but the cameras, A, would have deterred, or B, captured a better look at him, and we wouldn't be here today 5 days out. I want you to explain that, because there's a lot of parents who are wondering, where are you investing your money?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, and I want to reiterate, as our president did, that supporting our students and communicating to the parents, to our community about our support is of utmost importance. We have 1,200 cameras located throughout the campus. We don't publish the locations of the cameras. That would give a map to somebody to evade detection on the cameras. So that would be counterproductive to do that. There are cameras in this building, and as I answered the previous question, we have turned over all evidence that we are holding at Brown to law enforcement and are cooperating fully with them.
So you're saying that there's a camera, you're saying there's cameras in the building. I was told yesterday there wasn't cameras in the building. The Attorney General said, old building, no cameras, attached to a new building with cameras.
I believe he said that there were 2 different phases of the building that might have 2 different levels of technology. Again, all video imagery has been turned over to law enforcement.
That doesn't make sense to
Amanda.
people.
Okay, I have a question for the chief and a question for the FBI. Hey, Chief.
How you doing, Amanda?
So, looking at this person of interest, and from his witness descriptions, it appears that this person had a genuine familiarity with Brown, possibly with that building as well. Have you, in questioning people, have you questioned and eliminated any Brown employees, current, former, disgruntled, facing discipline, any type of complaints?
Yeah, at this point, it's unknown to us. I think that the investigation is on, but it's unknown to us where this person works. It's unknown to us if he was an affiliate of Brown. That's all unknown to us. All we have is the image that we've been releasing and informed you all about it. And so we're hoping to get those answers eventually, who that person is or what their background is.
Okay, and a question, follow-up for the FBI, please.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I understand that the FBI has doing tower dumps of cell phone data, and I'm not sure if this is also happening, but if they're also checking the MAC addresses of any phones related to any of the Wi-Fi of residences or Brown University as well. If so, how long does it take to get that information? Have you even received any preliminary information that is helping you narrow down any potential persons of interest?
I will say that I don't want to get into the specifics of the techniques that we use investigatively, but I will say that we are using every resource that we have to find this subject and bring him to justice.
But when it comes to cell phone data, how long does it take to get that information? Will you get it weeks, months?
I will say that it varies as it relates to getting that type of data. I will say that everything that we're doing is getting expedited based on the gravity of what has happened here at Brown University.
Right next to it.
Have you recovered any physical evidence during these recent searches, and possibly including a gun magazine?
So we have done extensive searches both inside the location as well as outside. Yes, we have seized and found physical evidence.
And does that include a gun magazine?
We have found physical evidence.
Can you say where?
I'm not going to confirm. I'm sorry? Yeah.
Colonel, for the past couple of days, we have zeroed in on this particular person of interest. Can you kind of help remind us about why you believe this is someone who possibly could be
shooter or a suspect, and you've been very careful not to say a suspect, you've said a person of interest, that this is the only video. Can you help remind us about why you believe this is the person, not looking for other?
Yeah, we have enough evidence, I think, that's taken us to that level to identify this individual as someone who was there immediately after, before, case in the area. There's enough for us to believe that's definitely a subject of interest based on descriptions, based on statements, and so that's the reason we're calling him a subject of interest, just to ensure that we have enough, and once we identify him, to be able to take the next step.
A quick follow. You were very clear not to use gender with the person in proximity to the person of interest, but you have been using male pronouns describing this person as a man. For this particular person of interest, we can say for sure you believe that we are looking for a man for the person of interest?
Correct.
In the back there.
At this point, and this is for the FBI, at this point, this person could be anywhere, right? I-95 runs right through the state. So how are you coordinating with other states to determine whether this person of interest could be elsewhere?
No, that's a great question. Through all of our field offices, we have 56 field offices throughout the United States, as well as legats abroad. And so the information that we have, once it goes into our data systems, we are sharing that information real time with all of our FBI field offices and the partners as well. And so that is a way in which we're making sure that whether that subject has left the state or even left the country, that we are using that full reach of the federal arm to track that individual down.
And a follow-up real quick for one of you. I understand that Brown has 1,200 cameras. Why, and that those images have been handed over to the investigation, why have we not seen any of this footage? Wouldn't it help if the media or if the general public saw people walking through campus and just to get angles?
Yeah, I mean, my answer to that is footage of students running from the scene doesn't help advance identifying this person or this investigation. So,
Him walking into the building?
no, not him. I'm talking about video footage of students that were not harmed, other students hearing shots, running through a different part of the building. We have video footage of that. That doesn't help us identify this individual.
With respect to Attorney General, I think we could all agree that maybe, within the 24 hours ahead of that time, there is a lot of footage that could be gone through, or there's 1,200 cameras that you say there are in the school. Why hasn't that just been released to the public?
Well, let me play devil's advocate. Would you like all of it?
Why not?
Well, because here's why. Because it doesn't tell us anything about who committed this crime yet. If we get a better image of who committed this crime, you'll have it. There is no effort to preclude the public, online investigators in the press, from getting to the result faster than we can. If you can identify this person faster than we can, have at it. But we are giving you the best evidence we can to identify this person. The FBI, with respect, cannot find a person we have not identified yet. The way we identify him is to focus on this person, exhaust our investigative resources to pull videotape so that we can get an image out there that the public may be able to identify. At the same time, exploiting other evidence to try to track this person in different ways, which has been going on for the last 72 hours. So, well, what does that look like? What that looks like is information coming in from the tip line. The team runs it to ground. They rely on other evidence, the flock cameras that the colonel referenced, other electronic data that Amanda's referring to, and you can rule that person in or out. When that person is ruled out, you move on to the next one. The way the public helps us now is to help us identify this person, okay? But that's not the exclusive way we're going at it. But it does not advance our investigation to have reams of data out there that don't help identify the shooter. And we're confident of that.
My follow-up question just to that was as well is, we speak a lot about the public helping as well, and we know that the FBI is involved. But 5 days, a person can get very far in 5 days. What other state police departments are helping with this, and do you have any indication how far this person may have gotten in this time?
Oh, go ahead,
Yeah, no, I got it. So pretty much, it's a great point, and that's something that we're considering. Obviously, he could be anywhere. You're right. And I think the fact that we're all here in this room and we're providing the info and it's being spread out through this nation, I would hope, I'm speaking to different chiefs. I've had the privilege to know a lot of them. We're exchanging info as we speak. We don't know but we still don't know what the person is or who he is, right? And so we're going to continue to view, review, and then send out. And I just want to touch on that question because you do make a good point. If there's 1,200 cameras, right? How come we're not seeing it at all? But at the end of the day, we're looking at key evidence, key video evidence to send out. It makes no sense to re-victimize students who went through that. That's not my job, and that my responsibility is to ensure that people are safe. It's no different than I'm asking the public to provide me with video footage for weeks. I don't want to know what's going on in their homes for weeks. I want to know if they can see a piece of evidence that is going to be helpful for us to progress in this investigation.
What do we know about the level of public access to Garrison Hall? Is this a door that somebody from the public, the shooter, would have been able to walk in, or is this a place where you would have needed like swipe access to get in?
Certainly. Thanks for that question. Brown is no different than most colleges and universities that during daytime hours, there's open access to academic spaces. So that was the case on the day of the event.
Bill. Question for Brown. There are some buildings on campus that have what the private or non-police security guards posted at the front entrance. Was there a security guard ever posted at the engineering building entrance? If so, were they there that day, and what did they do? And if not, why not?
So maybe I'll ask our chief of police to speak to that.
On that day, we did not have and do not have a security asset posted inside the building.
Is that atypical of a Saturday or in that particular building? How do you determine where security is posted, and is that under the purview of Brown Police?
That is, and that is typical for that academic space.
That there would not be a security personnel?
Correct.
There you go.
One for the Colonel, one for you, Mr. Mayor. As far as the investigation goes, any updates on a possible motive here? And for the mayor, while I have you, we're getting towards Christmas time. Obviously, the suspect can get lots of different places, not just on campus there. What is your message to people coming into this area, seeing family who are concerned that this guy is still out?
Yes, so the motive is unknown at this time.
As we're, what are we, a week away from Christmas now? This only emphasizes the question that I think everyone's been asking, which is, are we safe in Providence right now? Which honestly is the hardest question that I keep getting asked. And whether it's the holidays or not, but with the holidays, we expect even more people to want to come home and celebrate with family and share the traditions that, are seared in all of our brains of holidays with our parents and loved ones. We can't lock down the city indefinitely. We can't. And I know this city. I know that they are tough. I know that they are resilient. I know that they have faced scary times before. And so we are doing everything possible to provide extra law enforcement, extra visibility, things to reassure confidence at a scary time. And it is a scary time here in the city. That's true at Christmas time. That was true when this started on Sunday morning, the first morning after. And so we are doing everything possible, but obviously families are going to have a conversation about what's right and what's best. But they should know that their city government is doing everything they know how. And thanks to the help of our friends, the governor and the Rhode Island State Police, our neighboring communities here in Rhode Island. For those of you who aren't from Rhode Island, this is a tight-knit place. And we have police officers from every corner of Rhode Island helping out in Providence right now. And so we are doing everything we can to reassure folks, to provide comfort, particularly as we expect will be even busier a week from now. And that is the best honest answer that I can give to that very difficult question. Please.
This question is for the Colonel. I know you've been interviewing survivors, specifically survivors that were in that classroom where the shooting took place. Have any of those survivors described the person of interest as the shooter, or have they given a physical description of the shooter that is similar to the person of interest that we've been shown?
That's correct, yes, they have. Yes, they have.
They have.
Yes.
Can you tell us how many actionable tips
No.
you've received at this point?
Happy to see Steve Clownkin.
Thanks very much, Mayor. And a two-part question, both for Colonel Perez and Mr. Gospel, FBI. As you've expanded the area that you've appealed to people who may have cameras within about an 80-block area, is it fair to say that the calls of people with cameras have tailed off, that you've gotten about all you can get?
Oh, we're still getting info, we're still getting calls, and we're doing a lot of knocking on doors, and it's been extremely helpful. So no, we're not done. We're going to continue to expand, and we get calls, and sometimes just knocking on doors alone is providing us that evidence.
And notwithstanding the fact the FBI issues a bulletin to all of its field offices and so forth, is it fair to say that until and unless you get a picture of this guy stepping into a car, you're not going to, basically, you're starting from square one? You don't really have a sense of who he is, where he's going, and how he's getting there.
I would say, as it relates to the FBI, as well as our partners here, any information that comes in, that has not tailed off at all. And I would say one thing that remains constant is we will always need the public's assistance in anything that we do. No matter what you guys may see on TV, we will always need the public's assistance. I say as it relates to that, any tip that comes in, the information that we get, we're able to aggregate that and push out, not only to make links with other FBI field offices, so in a way in which we can follow that lead all the way to ground. And so the information that is coming in, we are pushing that out throughout our field offices, throughout our partnerships into that community, and then we get it back as well. That's helping us to cross off leads in which are not valid, and then to push on leads that are valid as well.
But without that, I don't know if it's a video or something that shows him stepping into a car and you get a plate or something along those lines, makes your job that much more difficult.
Yes, and I mean, I think we've mentioned this job is painstakingly difficult, but we've signed up to do it. As the AG mentioned, we have not lost any vigor or investigative rigor as we've gone forth into this. I will say that that evidence that you're talking about sounds more like a smoking gun. Oftentimes, within my experience in the FBI, and I'm sure our partners as well, we get seeds. We only get seeds. And then we, through that hard work, as the Colonel mentioned, we end up building that story. We put that puzzle together. That's what we do. That's what we signed up for, and we're committed to that, to this community, to help do that.
In the back there. Yeah.
Thank you. Colonel, I want to follow up on one of my colleagues over there. You mentioned old school police work, and my colleague mentioned crossing people off the list, like basically making sure it's not that person, it's not that person. In homicide investigations, isn't it usually someone close to the victim? And if so, have you, and the person also seemed to have no ground somewhat, have you knocked off every single person from ground? When I say knock off, meaning they didn't do it, they didn't do it, they didn't do it, from staff assistants?
Yes, of course. I mean, investigations, and I don't think that in every homicide, everyone that commits the homicide is close to that person. That's not something that happens. But we have obviously eliminated those strong leads that come up as strong leads. As a tip comes up, we label it as a high priority, medium priority, low priority. And yes, once we vet it through and make sure that we cover everything and we prove that that person has nothing to do with it, absolutely, we clear it out.
Yeah, and if I could I just want to just jump in here to clarify that. So clearly, one of the things the investigators do, or maybe not so clearly, is that when you have a victim, you build back all of the relationships. You do that in any case. And so you build a profile of your victims, so you know who may have threatened them, what they may have said that might have caused somebody to react a certain way. So yeah, that work is ongoing in conjunction with all the other work we're doing. But from where I sit today, there's been no development of any evidence that suggests that that's what drove this shooter. That could change, but there's nothing that we have recovered or analyzed to date that suggests that it was specific person motivated. Again, it could change, but we're 5 days out. That work is being done, and there is nothing that suggests that at this time.
Last question.
This is for law enforcement and potentially Brown, but 5 days have
how is it possible that we still don't have a clear idea of who was in the classroom during the shooting?
5 days have passed, it could be 6 days. We were hoping that only one day passed. Unfortunately, investigations, as this nature of investigation, as intensive as it is going to take time. And it's going to take a lot of time to be able to interview, seize evidence, examine it, to come up with the right person. But as the general stated, a person's going to get caught. We're going to do our job, and we're not going to stop until we do. And so we're going to continue. It could be later, it could be tomorrow, but we're not stopping until we find them.
But surely there's a log or something of people entering that classroom in particular, no?
No, I'd be happy to speak to that. So at this time of year, we have final exams taking place. We also have study sessions taking place. That particular classroom, it was a study session. Had it been a final exam, we'd have a roster, we'd handed it over. We know exactly who was in the room because everybody shows up for a final. But for a study session, it's elective.
We're finishing the answer. Ronaldo.
It's elective. It's elective to turn out for a study session. So we don't know exactly what fraction of the overall roster turned out for a voluntary review session.
So there's no physical log, just to clarify?
Law enforcement is working to reconstruct that, but there would not be a formal log.
The camera in that building, they Brown put off because the sanctuary city law that we have, you don't want to record illegal immigrants, and you don't want to provide the footage to the FBI or immigration authority. One camera in that building, it come out from your detectives, they are friends of mine, they're angry at this investigation that these people in Brown University put the camera off, they can identify that person. You imagine how the family want to go through? Tell the truth to the media here. Putting cameras off.
We heard from both the Brown Police Chief and the Provost at Brown, who have shared that they have been fully cooperative and been forthcoming with all data and evidence that they have. The City of Providence's experience is the same, which is that Brown has been entirely cooperative and collaborative and fully sharing with us. We will be back here tomorrow. Once again, if you are not on the press list and you would like to be updated, please see Camille. Otherwise, we will see you all tomorrow. Thank you. Yes, at 4. Data and evidence that they have. The City of Providence's experience is the same.
Alrighty, you've been watching there just moments ago. A press conference occurred there. We are going to sneak in a quick break. Reaction to the press conference, what we learned in that press conference, plus what we were talking about before the press conference, the death of Rob and Michelle Reiner. That's when we return in just a moment. Welcome back in here to Brooklyn News Live. Moments ago, that press conference being held, an update on the Brown University shooting. What we learned there, a search for a second suspect that was in the proximity of where this all occurred. But again, the search still continuing for this suspect. New images, excuse me, have been released. We have some of that, I believe. Here we go. Here is some of that video from what we're learning just moments ago. There's that video now on your screen, showing you some of this amplified video. We've been showing you kind of it throughout the past little bit. We're also getting in new images showing kind of the proximity of where this all happened. There you go. You're still seeing the images. Sorry, I'm trying to get that map pulled up for you guys. That actually shows kind of where police are searching. Sorry guys, this is what live news looks like when you're trying to get things pulled up for the viewers. I know we had it on your screen a few moments ago. Here is that map. Should be showing on your screen now. It kind of gives you an idea, and I'll take the graphic out there on the bottom of your screen so you can see kind of the key. Where police are searching, the area focused there in that big blue box. Before the shooting, where we have seen this suspect travel, where we've seen in video that we were showing you guys. And then after the shooting, where this suspect went. So now the question is, where is the suspect? That's the question that's going to be asked here. And the question that, of course, law enforcement does not know, but we did learn there was a search for a second suspect. That's also a question. Now, what that looks like, again, the press conference just wrapping up within the last few moments. Okay, so Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner were found dead at their home in Los Angeles. Authorities have since arrested their son, Nick Reiner. According to sources, the two parents of Nick Reiner, Rob and Michelle, were found stabbed to death at their Los Angeles home. Well, it was Nick Reiner's first court appearance today. We've got video into that appearance from earlier today in Los Angeles. Let's take a listen. They say he did not fully appear himself in court because he is undergoing mental health. He's having some mental health issues. And until he's fully stable, they won't do that. But let's show you. This is from earlier today, Nick Reiner in court.
F08098. Good morning, Your Honor. Alan Jackson, along with Caleb Mason and Elizabeth Little and Horchman Jackson, went on behalf of Mr. Reiner, who's currently present in court in custody. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. Habib Balian for the people.
Jonathan Chung for the people, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And counsel, how would you like to proceed today?
Your Honor, if we could, I would like to ask for a continuance of the arraignment. I want to get it clear at this juncture. It's too early. We've coordinated with counsel from the DA's office, and January 7th, with the court's permission, would be a convenient date for us to come back for potential arraignment.
Thank you. At this time, I'll take a waiver, speedy arraignment waiver from your client.
Thank you.
Mr. Reiner, you have a constitutional and statutory right to a speedy arraignment. Your counsel is requesting that your arraignment be continued to January 7, 2026. Do you waive your right to a speedy arraignment so that your arraignment can be heard on January 7, 2026? And does counsel join in the waiver?
I join, Your Honor.
The court finds that the defendant has made a knowing and intelligent waiver of his right to a speedy arraignment, and that is counsel joins in. Matter set January 7, 2026 for arraignment in this department. Bail to stand at no bail.
Not by the defense, Your Honor.
Anything further?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So that was earlier in the courtroom there. It was just a 3-minute clip, really quick there, showing what all happened. Kind of just asking for this date to be postponed. The judge ruling in favor here of the defense. President Donald Trump reacted to the deaths as well, blaming it on Trump derangement syndrome. He went on to say this is about, of course, Rob Reiner, someone who he was big in the movie world, but also big in the political world, and in a sense, of course, having his own opinions, revealing those own opinions that were not in favor of President Donald Trump. He writes, together with his wife Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused. This is why he's saying why he died has passed. Due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. So, of course, this is still a story we are going to follow. What goes on here, when that next court date is, of course, you heard the judge there saying it would be moved to January. So, we'll be waiting for January to come when we see that. Earlier in Atlanta, Georgia, Fani Willis, the district attorney there, she tried the case against President Donald Trump in the electors scam. If you remember that call to the Georgia Attorney General, I believe it was, by President Trump, asking to get the votes in order to win Georgia. It became very heated at moments in this hearing. I watched it a little bit throughout the day as I got some chances. Of course, if you remember in the early days of Brookland News, we also followed this. We were live with her testimony in that case. I remember she had appointed someone that people didn't agree with and said they were having a relationship. She would later reveal they were having a relationship. Things got very heated in this hearing. We're going to listen in for just a moment and we'll see where things take us. Okay, it looks like the point that we have paused in the video, it has not started just yet. So this is, stand by here. We'll see here. Looks like it's about to begin now. Let's listen in.
Allowed to be, so thank you for working with our Senate press staff on that. If there are any available seats in the middle of your aisle, please, or middle of your row, please scoot over. We do have overflow in room 125 here in the Capitol building for any of you that want to avail yourself of the overflow room as well. This is a Senate committee hearing. This is not a courtroom. There is no judge in the room. We will adjudicate the meeting today per the Senate rules and Mason's manual. We have the Secretary of the Senate available to advise us if there's any considerations. Governor Barnes, you are here as counsel for D.A. Willis, is that correct?
I am, but I can assert privilege. I mean, you can't decide privileges that are granted by
No, I didn't say anything about privilege. I was just referencing that that's the capacity in which you're appearing today.
Oh,
yes. And just want to kind of maybe cast a net is for those of you that have not been here for any of our committee hearings. This committee is charged with investigating and advising the General Assembly on any changes to Georgia state law as the committee deems necessary as a result of our investigation into the criminal prosecution as related to the election interference case of President Trump and the 18 others. We've had a series of meetings and have been working with the District Attorney Willis to appear today. We had a state law that passed, and as my understanding, you are appearing under the second subpoena that was issued, and there is still a Supreme Court case relative to the 2024 subpoena and the General Assembly that issued that, or the Senate that issued that at that time. Great. I referenced signs briefly. It's my understanding that there's some people that have signs in the room. You're obviously welcome to have those. Please just don't hold those up, as you will be blocking views from other members of the committee. We do have a single-purpose agenda, and with that in mind, we will go ahead and swear in our witness today. Madam DA, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a statement I'd like to include in the record.
Sure. If you want to pass that around to us, be happy to make that as part of the record.
And I'm doing that because I was prohibited from giving a statement.
Yeah, so again, this is going to be analogous. I know it's been a while since you've been in the state Senate. You've had an illustrious career since then. As you know, committee testimony is different than courtroom procedures, and there's generally not opening statements in Senate committee testimony.
I've
and that
never
was
known an investigative committee that did not allow opening statements.
we will proceed with the testimony. And if either one of you and Madam DA, is that the preferred title? Is how you'd like us to refer to you?
Either District Attorney Willis or Madam DA.
Perfect. We'll go with either one of those. Thank you for being here today. Please do pull that microphone closer or lean forward when you speak. I'll try to get the volume adjusted so that everyone can hear it.
I doubt anyone will have trouble hearing me.
Fair enough. If you could take a minute, walk us through your career history. I know that you have a 30-year legal history. If you could just tell the committee your path to becoming the district attorney in Fulton County.
Well, I went to the best university in the nation, Howard University, matriculated through there in 3.5 years and graduated December of '92, although I walked in May of 1993. I then came down to Georgia because I was admitted to one of the top 25 law schools in the country,
Emory University School of Law. While at Emory University School of Law, for the first time in Emory's history, I won the Frederick Douglass Moot Court Competition, which is a national competition put on by the Black Law Students Association, successfully matriculated through, took the Georgia bar because the Olympics was that year. That was the last year that you could take the bar while still in law school. So during my last semester of law school, I took the bar and passed on the first try. Then became a lawyer. I worked for a small law firm with Alvin Kendall. Alvin Kendall has a great knack for picking talent because at that law firm at the time was myself and the former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, who will be a great candidate for governor of this state and is now running for office. Also Teresa Mann, who is a judge in the city of Atlanta court, and another lawyer by the name of Carl Touchtone. We represented people in both criminal and civil cases. I worked there for a small time. I then left that law firm and opened up my own law practice where I practiced both juvenile law, criminal law, did some family stuff. Young practitioner, I did that out of Douglas County, Georgia, but I represented people in the entire metro area during that time. Got married, had 2 children, became a solicitor, needed a kind of a more calm life. So I went to work for Raines Carter, who's been the longest standing solicitor, I think, in the country at this point. Worked for him for some time, applied to become a district attorney, worked there approximately 16 years, tried every type of case you can imagine, but I was really a murder prosecutor. That's what I do best. But also at that time tried the longest case in Georgia's history, which is the Atlanta Public Schools case, a RICO case. That's how I became acquainted with John Floyd, because he taught me RICO inside and out, and taught me how you can use that to bring criminals to justice, which I've done throughout my career successfully. Worked there, then decided to leave to run for office. Ran for judge, came up 49%, I believe, is the percentage of the vote that I won. Actually went to a Republican strategist. He told me, because I went to a runoff, Republicans will not vote for you. And I said, why? I've had a history of representing this state. I've done so successfully. I'm known as a prosecutor. He said, you're black and female. I said, I don't believe that to be true. I don't think that's the state of the nation. Who knew? He was right and I was wrong. I lost that election, but that was God's plan. Because after that, I had the honor of representing the Judicial Qualifications Commission. I'm one of the only black lawyers to ever be able to do that in the state of Georgia, where I prosecuted judges who had done something wrong. And so that was a great honor of mine. Richard Hyde was one of the people that helped me to get that position because he had worked with me on Atlanta Public Schools. I think that he's still doing that kind of work, and he's a very great investigator. So I did that for a while. I also got to represent a lot of fathers and mothers as they went through domestic things, did some criminal defense work, and then people started coming to me. You need to run for district attorney. Current district attorney has some problems. You'd be outstanding at it. And who knew? I ran, I won. I'm the first woman to serve as district attorney in Fulton County, Georgia. Best to ever do it. I sit here with a 92% conviction rate. That's my history.
Excellent. Thank you so much. For those of us on the committee, it'd be helpful to kind of get a scope of what your office structure is like and kind of the makeup of your office. So how many employees are within the Fulton County's DA's office?
A little over 300 approximately. All numbers that I give today, which should be approximations. You should not hold me to exacts.
Certainly will do so on these questions for sure. Of those employees, about how many of those are attorneys?
Half.
About 150 attorneys. How many investigators?
65.
Okay. And how many paralegals?
I don't know, about another 70 or so professionals. Some of that is VWAP, some of that is administrators, some of that is legal assistants. I'm not going to be able to guess at these numbers.
Sure. The state pays the minimum salary for all district attorneys and assistant DAs, is that correct?
No.
Okay. Can you walk us through the pay structure?
The state pays for my office about 25 ADAs. They're woefully underpaid. The salary that the state paid is a joke right now. If you want to look at some legislation, you should look at paying DAs across this country more money, because they do not make enough money, and it is very hard for people to recruit DAs at the state pay. So for those 20 or so some lawyers that work at state pay, I do one of two things as incentives. The first thing I do is the ones that work in-house, I give them supplements that the county pays, because the pay is so low and really just an embarrassment to think that we pay public servants at that rate. Another incentive I offer to some other very seasoned ADAs that are further along in their career that are my state paid employees, I let them work 95% remotely, and all they do is indict cases for my office. The rest of the lawyers paid by the Fulton County District Attorney's Office are in fact paid by the county, but you should note here that I am a state employee. I am not a county employee. I represent the Atlanta Judicial Circuit. The Fulton County DA is really slang.
Great. So give me a range then of those ADAs, including the supplement. What's the salary range of those
Probably the
ADAs?
lowest salary of any DA that works for me is 85, and the highest might be around 200. Again, don't hold me to exacts.
Sure. Okay. You were elected in 2020. We talked about that. You had a transition process in between the election and when you were sworn in. Can you walk us through what that process looked like?
It was not a very good one. Myself and the former district attorney never had a conversation. We still have never had a conversation. But while I was still on my personal time, not yet being paid by the state of Georgia, I interviewed every attorney and investigator of the office and some of the other staff because I wanted to decide who I was going to keep and who I was not going to keep. So I did that during that time period. I also had some committee members where I got some advice on things that needed to be priorities for the office as I took office. So I got very esteemed members of the Fulton County and the greater community to kind of advise me. I believe in diversity, so it was a diverse group.
Alrighty, well, I know you're probably so interested in this hearing, because I know I was when I saw it, of course. Fani Willis, someone who is loud and about what she thinks, what her opinion of this all is. It got pretty heated in this committee as you continue to watch there. We do prioritize live events. Therefore, we, if you guys will stand by with us, are going to take you over to the Senate floor, where right now lawmakers are remarking. Again, let's go live out to the Senate floor where lawmakers are remarking now. Let's go live there. There we go. Sorry to click a few buttons. Clicking the right buttons is that big story. Again, Senate lawmakers remarking on this on the floor there. Let's listen in.
And they would just want one more chance for themselves, their child, whomever. The folks who were most desperate were the parents for their child. And we all know that. Because if someone dies when they're 70, it can be tragic. But they've lived 70 good years. And when someone dies when she's 6, she is denied 76 more years. And it is the desperation of these families that kind of cries out from this piece of legislation. They want this passed. And the goal of this legislation is to get cures for pediatric cancer to the patient more quickly. Now, we've been working on this for several years, Democrats and Republicans, trying to make it so that those families, their desperate pleas, are actually heard. And just as the senator from Oklahoma noted, the legislation was recently renamed to honor the legacy of Michaela Nalen, who spent her final days advocating for better pediatric drug research. The irony here is that the objection is going to come out of a genuine concern that people achieve health care. A concern I share for increased funding, for funding to be extended for community health centers. I share that concern. But there's no one way to treat the ills, literally the ills of the United States of America. And to think that we can do it all at once, it's just not true. But also, to say that you're not going to give a chance for children to have a cure for cancer if you don't get what you want is just not true. It is selfish. It is tragic. These parents are desperate for this act. Now, this will expand the research and drug development for these pediatric illnesses. And I commit, as chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, that I will work to pass community health center legislation. I will work to have it well funded. I will not let it sit on the back corner, never getting done. There is a commitment from the chairman to work with my Democratic colleague to get it passed this coming year. If that is the only barrier between offering these children hope I ask that that not be a barrier. And with that, I yield.
Thank you, Senator from Louisiana. And I, too, want to say, I support community health centers. As I said, they're very important in rural communities, very important in my hometown of Westfield. In fact, it's the only health care that's available. I don't want them to be harmed. I want them to be well-funded. But that's a separate conversation we can have. The chairman just said he'll work to get it passed next year. Now, there's no reason to hold our kids hostages anymore. So, as if in legislation session and notwithstanding Rule 22, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of H.R. 1262, which will receive from the House farther that the bill will be considered and read third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered, made, and laid upon the table.
Is there objection?
Reserving the right to object.
I recognize the senator from Vermont.
Mr. President, let me be very clear. In the midst of a broken and dysfunctional healthcare system, we must do everything that we can to find new cures and treatments for pediatric cancer, and I strongly support that effort, period. I think we can all imagine the kind of heartbreak that parents go through when they learn that their babies or their young children have been diagnosed with cancer. And I should say that as the former chair of the Health Committee, I was actively involved in the bipartisan agreement that we reached over a year ago, which included the Give Kids a Chance Act. Bipartisan support, ready to go. Sadly, that enormously important legislation was torpedoed, as some of you will recall, by a series of tweets by Elon Musk. And Republicans became frightened and they gave up on that bipartisan legislation. As the current ranking member of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, I believe that we must revive that bipartisan agreement that was worked on month after month after month by Democrats and Republicans. Therefore, in a minute, I will be making a unanimous consent request to include this bipartisan health care package, again, an agreement that was supported by the leadership in the House and the Senate as an amendment to the Give Kids a Chance Act, and I hope very much that my Republican colleague will support that amendment and we can go forward together. And let me very briefly describe what my amendment would do, which I hope my Republican friends will support. And I say this at a time, as all people know, not only that our health care system is broken, our primary health care system is especially broken. Tens of millions of Americans today cannot get to a doctor when they need to. And there are estimates, you talk about people dying, there are estimates that tens of thousands of people die in the United States of America because they are sick and they can't afford to get to a doctor when they should. And that is why community health centers are so very important and provide health care today, dental care, low-cost prescription drugs, mental health counseling to over 30 million Americans. And all we are doing here is asking my Republican colleagues to support the bipartisan agreement we had last year, which would increase funding for community health centers by $340 million. Mr. President, in fact, according to the Commonwealth Fund, health centers today are facing a disastrous situation. In fact, they face losses of nearly $42 billion in revenue over the next 5 years. So community health centers are a lifeblood. They are the way the low-income, working-class people in rural America, urban America, get the health care they need, and we are seeing them under enormous financial strain. Just this past year, we had a health center site in Vermont, and I understand 2 in New Hampshire, that were forced to shut down because lack of funding. What do you think happens when people can't get to a doctor? You know what happens when they're sick? They die. This is happening all over America. We all know that primary care is critical for children, in fact, in detecting cancer early, saving lives. How do you think children with cancer, how do we learn about it? They go to a doctor. If they don't go to a doctor, we don't find out about it. Researchers at the Emory University School of Medicine and the University of Chicago found that having access to primary care in childhood has been shown to lower the rate of death in blood cancer by over 10%. It is vital that we begin to increase funding for community health centers. If Republicans agree with it, if Democrats agree with it, let us do it. Let us do it right now. Further, this amendment would extend mandatory funding for the National Health Service Corps for 2026. Guess what? In the richest country in the history of the world, we don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough dentists. And what the National Health Service Corps does is forgive medical debt to those professionals who practice in underserved areas where they are desperately needed. Let's do it. Further, this amendment would extend mandatory funding for the Teaching Health Center program through September 29, 2029, at an annualized rate that reaches $300 million. Teaching health centers are extraordinarily important because they allow medical school graduates to do their residencies in community health centers, not just in large urban hospitals. Finally, this amendment would provide $200 million a year for the special diabetes programs, which is so very important. Again, Mr. President, this is not a radical amendment. I'm not coming here saying, let's do something we've not talked about. I'm not talking about passing Medicare for all here. I am talking about doing what the Republicans and Democrats agreed to a year ago, but was torpedoed by some tweets from Elon Musk. Therefore, Mr. President, I ask that the request be modified, that my amendment at the desk be considered and agreed to, the bill as amended be considered read a third time and passed, and the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there objection to the modification?
I reserve the right to object.
I recognize the senator from Oklahoma.
You know, Mr. President, everything that the senator from Vermont just wrote about was why I think he supported affordable health care, a.k.a. Obamacare. I thought it was supposed to fix all this stuff that he's wrote about, and we figured out it hasn't. It's wrecked the system. It's unaffordable for the American people. Yet it was the Democrats that sold us, or sold the American people on it. Not us, not the Republicans, sold the American people on it. It's been disastrous. And so now he wants to hold kids that are dying of rare diseases and pediatric cancer. Want to hold them hostage to now try to push his agenda farther and not go through the committee of jurisdiction, but hold the kids hostage. The kids. Everything the senator from Vermont just talked about was political. I'm talking about lives. I'm talking about giving kids a chance to live an extra day or a lifetime. That's what I'm talking about. This isn't nothing to do with politics. Nothing. Nothing I'm talking about has to do with politics. This has to do with kids. Yet my senator from Vermont wants to make it about politics. You know, this time of the year at Christmas, we talk about Grinches all the time, right? They go in and they steal the kids' gifts. But at the end of the show, their hearts grow bigger and they give the gifts back. And they allow kids to be excited about Christmas morning. What's happened right here in front of us, the Grinch is stealing kids' lives, and they're stealing hope from the families. Hopes from the families that might have an opportunity just to try for a political agenda. And I hope to God that every single family that's going through this will hold the senator from Vermont accountable, and the state of Vermont will hold him accountable too, because he's playing with kids' lives. He's literally killing kids in front of us because of his political movement. And it is ridiculous, and therefore I object.
The objection is heard, but remind senators that in a course of debate, not to disparage other senators' motives or character.
Well, let's speak the truth. Well, don't interrupt me.
There's objection to the modification.
I think I have
Is
the
there
floor.
objection? Is there objection to the original request? Objection is heard.
All right, Senator from Oklahoma says that I'm talking about politics. Well, if talking about politics means that millions of children have the right to see a doctor, I guess I am talking about politics. If talking about politics means that kids can get dental care when their teeth are rotting in their mouth or get mental health counseling, I guess I'm talking about politics. So once again, this important piece of legislation I support, but I also support passing the bipartisan piece of legislation that was worked on last year. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Okay, you've been continuously watching senators there speak on the Senate floor there. We want to take you to a feed that we're watching. This is live in Sydney, Australia, as we've been continuing to watch this. The memorial continuing to grow for those 16 victims, 40 others injured, 40 plus injured in that deadly shooting that occurred at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia last week in a celebration for Hanukkah, an attack deemed as anti-Semitic and a terrorist attack by Sydney, Australia officials. Going back live now to the Senate floor. We'll continue to monitor that. Want to take you to another story that we were watching actually before we took you live out to the Senate, of course. Fulton County Attorney, I should say District Attorney, testifying in front of the Georgia Special Committee. She's the one that brought the charges against Donald Trump in the faked elector scheme. Let's listen back in.
Who was a part of the team that made the decisions on who you would keep and who you would go? What was the consultation process after the interview? And how many approximately, if I can ask you this question a second time, if you want to answer the first one, but I'm trying to get to how many people did you retain from the former DA's team, and then how many people were brought in that were new?
I don't remember. I might have fired 50 or 60 people, but I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
The AJC did an article on she fired people, to which I told Fulton County I was going to only bring the best and the brightest. So I was always confused as to why that was a surprise.
Was there a lead on your transition team?
I was the lead. I was the DA.
Okay. Was there another person that you consulted with more than the others?
No.
I believe Mr. Wade said under testimony that he was a part of over 90% of these meetings or decisions. Do you recall that being an approximate accurate statement as to his involvement?
I can't speak to any other person's testimony, so I'm not going to ever comment on someone's testimony. If he testified to such, you're going to need to show it to me. You'll have to forgive me. I don't really trust you. So I'll have to see that particular testimony.
Do you recall Mr. Wade being...
Wait just a minute. She's got a right to finish her answer. You don't have a right to cut her off.
That's incorrect, Governor. Thank you.
Sir. It is
I'll be completing answers, though, sir. So
Sure.
we should get that straight from the...
Was Mr. Wade part of, would you say, more than half of the interviews that you conducted?
Yes.
Would you say it was more than 75% of the interviews you
I'm not going to guess
conducted?
at numbers. He was definitely more than half.
And what percentage of decisions, was the same percentage of decisions that he was a part of?
I ultimately made every decision. I take wise counsel from a group of people. So I took wise counsel from him. I took wise counsel from Deputy Bond. Ultimately, I made the decision on who stayed and who went.
Was Mr. Wade paid for this transition work?
None of them were paid. It was all volunteer work. It was wanting to make sure that the region was safe. So people volunteered their time to make sure that we had the best and the brightest representing Fulton County and that this community stayed safe. And every person who did it for free.
Thank you. Part of one of the things you did when you came into office was you formed this new anti-corruption unit. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Can you walk us through the decision process to stand that unit up, if that replaced any other units, and who was a part of that unit once it was stood up?
And I'm actually not sure we called it the anti-corruption unit when we first took over. So when I became the district attorney, Paul Howard had 101 police brutality cases, many that went back to years, maybe to 2009. People in the community were very upset. It was both unfair to the law enforcement officers and to the community that decisions were not made. And so I knew that one of the things that I was going to have to do was to make sure that every case got looked at and was evaluated. And so I was looking for attorneys to do that. I'm not sure if that's what we called it at first, because I think we called it the Civil Rights Unit, in fact. When we first opened it, I think it was the Civil Rights Unit. At some point, I go to visit other huge district attorneys' offices that have kind of the same kind of struggles that I have as a major metro area. I went to visit the Houston District Attorney's Office at that time, and in that office they had divided cases, and I thought it was a brilliant way to do business. And so I think that's the point that I then formed a civil rights unit, which would only deal with police brutality, and an anti-corruption unit. So I think when we first started that it was called the Civil Rights Unit.
Okay, how many people were part of that unit once you got it fully operational?
Well, it depends. You know, the county has, in my opinion, stolen people from me, so we can't do the job as effectively as needs to be done. I've had as many as, it varies. It has varied because we had an anti-corruption unit and a civil rights unit. So it's varied.
Can you give us a range?
It really depends on who you're calling the anti-corruption unit. I've probably not had more than 2 lawyers in that unit, maybe 3 at any given time, an investigator or 2, and a legal assistant. They may have been doing double duty somewhere else.
And you entered into a contract with Chris Campbell to do some taint work as a part of that unit, is that correct?
That would be the civil rights unit.
Well, it sounds like they were somewhat interchangeable from what you just said. You said that it was called
No,
the Civil Rights Unit when it started.
The civil rights unit may have encompassed everything at first, and then it ultimately becomes police brutality cases. And so what Mr. Campbell was, when the police take a statement, I know you're not an attorney, but there's an issue called garrity. And what happens is government employees, mostly we're talking about law enforcement officers, they will make a statement to the police, but that statement won't be Mirandized. There's all kinds of legal rules around it. I can't be privy to those statements. I shouldn't have them. Sometimes I think the police almost put them in there intentionally, and so they'll be intertwined in statements and reports. And so what he was hired to do is to redact. So once that I got a file from the GBI when somebody had been shot by an officer, I never read that. That way we were never tainted. That's why we use that word, by never seeing that. And so yes, he was hired. He had been, I believe my recollection is he had been a former law enforcement officer, and he was a lawyer. I thought he was great for that work.
And Terrence Bradley was involved in that work.
He had been a former
well,
probation officer and an attorney. That's one of the reasons that I thought that they would do outstanding at it, because they had long histories in the law enforcement community and lawyers.
Was Mr. Wade?
I have lawyers now currently doing that work.
Was Mr. Wade involved with the taint work?
No.
Mr. Wade, Bradley, and Campbell were law partners. Is that correct at the time?
Loosely is what I understand. I can't tell you about the design of, I can't tell you the design of his firm. I think more so what happened is they shared office space and cost or something, but I don't know. I shouldn't speak to that or speculate to it.
Did you place anyone in charge of the anti-corruption unit, or did everyone that worked for there report directly to you?
I mean, ultimately, everyone reports directly to me, but the anti-corruption unit...
Okay, you were listening in there to a Georgia Senate panel examining, this is District Attorney, I should say, Fani Willis' role in the Trump interference case back in 2020. We do have some breaking news we want to turn to right now. The Associated Press reporting in the last few moments that the FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino will resign next month. This comes after his tenure was faced with lots of controversy. You remember at the beginning of all of this, he had a little bit of tension reported between himself and the FBI Director, Kash Patel. I'll read this story here just coming in from the Associated Press. FBI Director Dan Bongino said Wednesday that he will resign from the Bureau next month, ending a brief and Stoltenberg's tenure, in which he clashed with the Justice Department over the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files and was forced to reconcile the realities of his law enforcement job with provocative claims he made in his prior role as a popular podcast host. The departure, which had been expected, would be among the highest profile resignations of this Trump administration. It comes as the FBI leadership has been buffeted by criticism over Director Kash Patel's use of government plane for personal purposes and social media posts about active investigations. Bongino was also always an unconventional pick for the number 2 job at the FBI, a position that historically has entailed oversight of the Bureau's day-to-day operations and typically has been held by a career agent. Though he had previously worked as a New York City police officer and Secret Service agent, neither he nor Patel had any experience at the FBI before being picked for their job. So that news just in, FBI Director Dan Bongino announcing that he will resign in January. Stand by. I'm going to see if we can't get that statement. Here we go. Here's the statement we are just getting in from Dan Bongino on that resignation. Hold with me here. I'm going to try to get it on your screen. And then I will read that out to you as soon as we get it. Here we go. There we go. There's that post there now. It says, quote, "I will be leaving my position with the FBI in January. I want to thank President Trump, AG Bondi, and Director Patel for the opportunity to serve with purpose. Most importantly, I want to thank you, my fellow Americans, for the privilege to serve you. God bless America and all of those who defend her." Again, big story just coming out. According to that statement there, FBI Director Dan Bongino will step out and exit his role beginning in January. So it's going to be interesting to see who the president places in that job at this moment. I want to take you back to that story we were just looking at. The Georgia Senate committee panel examining District Attorney Fani Willis's role in the Trump 2020 election interference case. Let's go back out there. This from earlier today in Atlanta, Georgia.
When Mr. Wade was he hired solely to focus on this election, to work on this election team, or did he do other work within your office?
I don't remember. I think there were times where I'd bring in some of my senior personnel and ask them, what's your thought on this case or these facts? I always involve wise counsel. I'm sure he was in some of those meetings.
Would you classify Mr. Wade as senior personnel as been part of your team?
Would I classify him as senior? So he was a special prosecutor. He never worked for me as an employee. What I would call him is a seasoned lawyer. 25 years, first African-American lawyer to ever serve Cobb County as a municipal court judge. What I would call him is a lawyer with a distinguished resume.
Okay. When did you begin to consider whether to bring charges in response to the 2020 presidential election in Georgia?
Don't answer that. That's a deliberative privilege. Don't answer that. I instruct you not to answer.
Is it true that part of your transition team was involved in the process of interviewing people before you entered office to lead the investigation into the 2020 presidential election?
I'd like to answer that.
Go right ahead. You only take my advice sometimes. Anyway, go ahead.
That's really an ignorant question. And if you understand what the word ignorant means, it means the lack of knowledge. If you recall the facts, I was already district attorney when this all came to light. So it's factually impossible.
You were district attorney when what came to light?
When Raffensperger went on Good Morning America or whatever show he went on. I was already district attorney, so what you ask is a factual impossibility. Now, I know they've gotten black folks confused and said I was running for office, saying I was going to prosecute the President of the United States, but that's what we call a lie.
Okay. I would like
I'll take
to...
your advice from here on out, okay?
Yeah.
If you take a look at the screen for me, if you will. This is from Mr. Wade's deposition to members of Jim Jordan's committee. And he was asked for the search committee. You said that began when D.A. Willis took office on January 1, 2021. Is that correct? Yes. And there was outreach to you to be part of the search committee prior to January 2021, January 1, 2021. Absolutely. When did that start? Sometime after the election, but prior to her taking office. Okay, so between the election, you're referring to November 2020 election. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. And so when you had conversations with individuals, you said on multiple occasions, you said no, and you turned down the position. Who were those conversations with? They were with the district attorney.
So I think you're confusing facts. We've already had a long conversation about I interviewed everybody at the DA's office, and I interviewed other people to come and work at the district attorney's office. And as I told you, I did that on my free time before I became DA. But I had no way of knowing that these criminals were going to commit a crime. And that did not come to light until January of 2021 when I'm actually the DA. So it is a factual impossibility, like I already told you. I think that that is misinterpreted. He's absolutely correct. We looked for talent for the district attorney's office before I became the DA. I didn't wait till the day I took office to look for talent that would represent my office. But I was unable to look for talent for a case that didn't exist before I took office. It's factually impossible. It's common sense. You don't need to be a lawyer.
I'm going to read you some additional testimony. I'll try to put it on the screen.
You can read me as much as you want, but
And I will. Thank you, Madam DA. And I apologize. I did not intend to have to get into this here. What was when Mr. Wade says that there was an interview on line 13, as you'll see here, this is prior to you entering office. What were you interviewing him for?
I didn't interview him prior to him entering office. He had a thriving law practice. Even when he ends up being offered the position, he doesn't want it.
Okay, now. So it's your testimony today that you and Mr. Wade did not have any conversations prior to you taking office relative to an investigation into the 2020 election.
Don't answer that. That is a deliberative privilege of what goes on in a district attorney's mind and the process that goes.
She wasn't district attorney.
She was.
Prior to being sworn in, she was district attorney?
No, she was not, but you asked.
Because I'll return to my question. Prior to you being sworn in as district attorney, is it your testimony today that you did not have any conversation with Mr. Wade about investigating the 2020 election?
Do you want to answer?
It's a dumbass question.
I know it is, but go ahead and tell it because it occurred after she took office. But
I didn't know that he was going to commit a crime prior to me taking office. Like, factually, it's impossible.
Okay. Thank you. Would you agree with the statement? Actually, I'll skip that question. When did you decide to hire outside of your office a special assistant district attorney for this election case?
Oh, Lord. So when I became the district attorney of Fulton County, the office was in absolute chaos. I have to take you back. Can you hear me?
It's a little, I was going to try to turn you up if you don't mind leaning forward.
When I became the district attorney of Fulton County, the office was in absolute chaos. And I mean every level of chaos. On the ground, the carpet was molded and there were holes in it, and it was disgusting, a disgusting environment. There were boxes in offices, some to where you couldn't open the door. I remember walking through the office before. I told you I'd fired 50 or 60, I don't know exactly how many employees that I felt were unqualified to do this work. That doesn't mean they were bad people, but they were unqualified for the positions that they held. There were 18,000, write that down, 18,000 unindicted cases that went back 6 or 7 years that I was looking at. Not to mention another, 10,000 indicted cases in the system. Now, some that the judges had hid on judicial hold, but they were still there. So the office was in absolute chaos. And then I'm in the office on, I came in that Saturday, so that would have been day one. That was the day that I walked through the office. And I'm literally in the office that Monday or Tuesday. I can't recall now what day it is. And there's this phone call and the Secretary of State saying, oh, the proper venue to investigate this might be Fulton County. And so my priority became, and this is important too, there were 200 and something murders that had been sitting for years. Families had been waiting for justice for years. And so when I come to be the district attorney, my first responsibility is just getting the office properly set up. In fact, one of the most important roles I held up that I tried to find was the head of the civil rights lawyer. So when Brian Watkins walked into my office and actually interviewed to come there, because he was not with the old administration, that was like a gift from God, that I had a lawyer that had enough experience and would be talented enough and ethical enough and have the integrity to do this work. But my primary job was getting the entire office set up. So I immediately do things like set up a murder backlog project. I put Mike Carlson and Michael Sprinkle in charge of that. We're going to get every family's going to get an answer. They may not like the answer. The answer may be we can't prosecute this, but we're not going to sit with cases. We got to make decisions on these cases. And it took us years to get through that, but we did. And I'm happy to sit here and announce to you every one of those 18,000 cases, a decision got made on to include those 101 police cases I talked about, as well as the 46,100 and I think 36 cases that came in January 1st, 2021 till December 31st of 2024. So while people tell these lies about the DA ain't been working, I want you to find a DA working as hard as me.
My question was, when did you decide to hire outside counsel?
Alrighty, we've been continuing to listen to what has become a heated Georgia Senate panel as they are questioning District Attorney of Fulton County in Georgia, Fani Willis, her role in the Trump 2020 election interference case. We'll keep our eyes peeled towards that there. And we watched this a little earlier in the show, and then we kind of had some breaking news there. Dan Bongino expected to exit his role at the FBI. Earlier today, Republicans in the Senate taking questions in a press conference. Again, this was earlier today. Let's listen into that.
Anyway, we are as historic and consequential legislative session. And if you look at just in terms, we talk a lot about the number of votes cast, which is historic, largest number going back to 1976, and then also just the number of days we've been in. All those things add up. But I would argue that it's not just that, because I think volume doesn't necessarily equate with productivity, but I think we've had an incredibly productive session of this Congress as well in terms of the things that we've accomplished to make America safer, stronger, and more prosperous. Of course, as you all know, the One Big Beautiful Bill had a number of things in it on the tax side, things that American people are going to benefit from, whether it's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, reduced taxes for seniors on Social Security, whether it deals with the taxes on the expanded child tax credit, standard deduction, making permanent the rate structure. On the business side, all the business tax provisions that are going to incentivize investment in this country and create those good-paying jobs that keep our economy growing and expanding. So we're very pleased with the things that were accomplished as a result of that. And I would also say when it comes to keeping the country safer, we haven't had in this last year a single illegal immigrant admitted into the country. And we made a big investment in the border wall, fully funding the border wall. We've made a big investment in national security at a time when we live in a very dangerous world. Energy independence was a priority, as you know, in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And obviously newborn accounts, you can go right down the list of what I think are very consequential accomplishments in things that are going to benefit the American people for years and years to come. So we are very pleased about how things have gone. You add on top of that, we're going to have over 400 nominees confirmed by the end of the year, which is way ahead of the previous 2 administrations. And if you look at the number of Congressional Review Act resolutions of disapproval, repealing burdensome, I should say, Biden regulations, we have, I think, now passed 24 of those, and 22 have been signed into law. So a lot accomplished, but we aren't going to rest on our laurels around here. We're going to keep our foot on the gas. And as we think about next year already, we're working to put together an agenda that we think will continue to build on the success of this last year, but also set us up for success in 2026 and make sure that the American people, that we are doing everything we can to deliver on our promise to make this country safer, stronger, and more prosperous. And it's all about safer streets. It's all about more money in your pockets of the American people, and it's all about new opportunities for the American people to get ahead. So that'll be the question. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Nothing's going to get done on health care now, right, this year? And what makes anyone think, based on the experience last week, that anything could get done next year, especially considering that this is always one of the most meddlesome policy issues in the building?
It's a complicated issue, no doubt about it. A lot of moving parts, and we have very different visions about what health care ought to look like. But I would tell you, as you know, I think the Republican vision of health care is actually to make it more affordable, to drive down the cost of premiums in this country, which the bill that we voted on last week in the Senate would have done. And in the contrary view of that, the Democrat proposal, as you know, that was voted on was a simple extension of a program that is rife with waste, fraud, and abuse, and extends a program at a cost of $83 billion to the American taxpayer, and continues to drive premiums higher and higher and higher. I mean, our views on health care and the Democrat views on health care are very different. And I think that's a difficult challenge that we have to figure out how to overcome. But if they're willing to accept changes that actually would put more power and control and resources in the hands of the American people, and less of that in the pockets of the insurance companies, I think there's a path forward. And there was a good meeting, I think, as you know, yesterday among Democrats and Republicans, where a lot of these issues were, I think, very candid discussions were held. But you're right, we're not going to pass anything by the end of this week. But I do think there's a potential pathway in January if Democrats are willing to come to the table on things that actually will drive down the cost of health care.
Given the difficulty of getting through the amendment process, particularly with the air safety issue over national, can you avoid this NDAA going back to the House, number one? And number two, when you look at the NDAA and the time it takes to bolster our shipbuilding capacity to get planes delivered, we up to snuff when it comes to dealing with the rapid military buildup by the Chinese military?
I think we have this saying in my office, and I believe it's true, and that is that if you don't get national security right, the rest is just conversation. You got to be able to defend the country, and I think that the things that we are doing, the investments that were made, not only in the bill we passed last summer, the reconciliation bill, but this Defense Authorization Act, although it doesn't have as much in there for defense as a lot of us would like, is a step in the right direction. And I think the Defense Appropriations Bill, which hopefully we'll vote on later this week, is another example of the investment that we need to be making to ensure that in a dangerous world we are prepared to defend America and American interests against the bad actors that are out there. And I think peace through strength is not just a phrase. It's not just a throwaway line. It is a policy that most of us believe in, and I think this White House believes in, and we're going to be working closely with them to ensure that we have the resources in place in order to keep the country safe.
Secretary Haig said that the Pentagon is not going to be releasing the full video of the September 2nd double strike against the initial survivors. A number of Republican senators say that they disagree with that. They think the full video should be released. Personally, what's your view on that issue?
I have, as I've said before, left that up to the Senate Armed Services Committee. We have a committee that has jurisdiction over all things pertaining to national security, and an intelligence committee as well, both of which have, I think, great insights into how best to handle important, sensitive information like this, and so I'm going to trust their judgment on that. And I encourage you to take it up with Chairman Wicker, Chairman Cotton, or others who are on those committees and who have seen and will see most of that information.
Keeping with your calls to return stability and lower the temperature in politics, do you think the president should retract the statements he made about Rob Reiner that have been widely criticized on both sides of the aisle?
Look, I have answered that question. You guys have been posing that for the last couple of days. All I can say is my view of it. I can't speak for what the president has said. What I can tell you is I think it was a horrible tragedy. Just tragic loss of life, a story which continues to unfold, and all I can say is that my sympathies and condolences and prayers are with the family and with their friends. Thank you all very much.
A press conference held by Republicans from yesterday. They were live on Capitol Hill. We'll watch that. In the meantime, that is going to do it for us. But first, tonight, President Donald Trump expected to address the nation. You can watch that live here on Brookland News. Starting at 8 p.m. Central, we'll have full and entire coverage before and after the president speaks. Plus, catch us tomorrow from 2 to 4 p.m. We're also, just thinking about it during that video we were watching there is going to be a press conference from Brown University, an update on that. So we'll be on the air for that once again at 3 p.m. Central tomorrow. But from 2 to 4 p.m. Central tomorrow, you can catch us right here on Brooklyn News Live once again. That does for us. Guys, have a great rest of your day.